Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another Element event, and today is something special. We are in the first qualifier for Master of Elements, but before we get into that, I'm here with my friend Timmy. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Ready to see some interesting stuff come out from some players today. This is going to be a little bit different than we've seen in a while for Spellbreak, and I really got a big shout out for Element for doing this and kind of seeing what these players can come up with. But I'm talking crazy. What exactly is going on, Plays? Explain to the people what I'm talking about. What's so different today?
Yeah, so we're doing a similar format in terms of games. We'll have 6 total games played. It'll be duos in the game mode, but the twist is that every single player before the event, every team is sent a list of classes, 6 total for each game. So every team must play the class that is sent to them through this list. You will get a random combination. So one team will be double Tempest versus a double Stone Shaper versus a double Toxicologist. Depends on what you get for your class rotation. Here's an example of what it would look like for the players. And also, you are locked to using Ambidextrous and Spellslinger as your talents. You have the selection of a body talent. But Timmy, there's only 4 options.
Yeah, there's not many. There's not many that you can choose from. I think that the main thing that we're going to be seeing is Fortitude. I think that's a really easy choice. But like before we started, Plays also with the big brain coming through and saying that we might see some surprise talents coming through. And you mentioned maybe even things like Finders Keepers coming through to maybe even give them an edge. We never know until we see what these crazy experienced competitive players come through with. And decide on, but it's going to be very interesting to see what they come through with. And speaking of interesting, I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on who do you think might show up and take the dub today. I know we've got a lot of great players in here, but like we talked about, it's a little bit of a different setting for them. So who are you thinking?
I mean, I'm still going with the same competitive players that I would usually go with. I know there's a little bit of a twist in the format, but I mean, mechanics and good players are still good players. So my money is on G3-1. There's 2 G3s in this event, but just today is the G3-1. Sorry, G3-2 will be playing next week. So this is Chaos and Megaverse on their duo. But what do you think, Timmy? Who do you got?
Oh, okay. You're going with the G3-1. All right, I respect it. That's a solid choice. Like I didn't expect anything less from you, but I gotta say, I got a close eye on Steve B Sucks SB. Death, one of those players that have just been playing for such a long time. I think I mentioned it before. I got starstruck when he exiled me back in pre-alpha because he was such a well-known personality in the community at that point. And now we've got Cam Sucks as well, who I've personally been seeing popping off with players like Elpadog and really just showing up that he can be very versatile. So I think that those 2 players, if they can get together and kind of get on the same wavelength, they can come through and really surprise and maybe even upset. But it's going to be crazy because like we talked about before the qualifier, the thing about duos is you usually have a very defined meta or composition here. You have a frontline player that's very set up to do that in your face damage, that has the ability to be evasive and get away or kite if they need to, and then you have the backline that usually sets up to kind of give that support and clean up. With this kind of tournament, you're going to see some interesting play where people cannot do that. It's kind of like you're just going to have to figure out how to make it work, and it's going to be interesting to see how it happens. But I really got my eyes on Steve V Sucks SB for sure. But there's just such a great roster here, Plays. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, there's definitely a great roster here. I mean, all of our choices, all of our predictions are not set in stone. These are not guaranteed wins for either of these 2 teams. I mean, we still got Team Silent Kill in here with the Darkbreakers and Gigabyte teaming up. That's a deadly duo right there. Royal Ravens with Royal Raven and Programmer 69, who played really well in a recent duos qualifier. So although the rules are changed in this event, still, like I said before, good players are good players. But we will see exactly what goes through into these. Sorry, it's pro gamer, not programmer. My apologies on that one. I got a little correction from production, so thank you on that. But we'll see what happens in these games. We will be having game 1 starting shortly. And also the prizing for this event is the same as duos. So just to recap that for you guys, the first place team will be winning 2 Warlock chapter packs and codes for these chapter packs with 2 Nightshade codes. Second place gets 4 Spellslinger chapter packs and 2 Nightshade codes. Third place gets 2 Spellslinger chapter packs and 2 Nightshade codes. But this is just a qualifier. So the teams have to win through today's event to play in the finals where that prizing will be available. But just wanted to let you guys know what is on the line.
And we're going to be jumping right down in to see the action starting off early on with Wonderful and Lavelle. And it looks like they got a little bit of some windy action coming through. We got both Tempest. Going to be very, very interesting to see how they manage to play with these classes in conjunction with each other. It's going to be a very evasive, very, very mobile type of play style we should expect from both of them. And honestly, if they're able to focus fire and get some of this wind spam going in, it could really, really disrupt a player and take them out of the lobby quickly. But it looks like we got some action popping off in the kill feed just a little bit as we do make our way down to 36 already. But we've got a little bit of a lull in this beginning, loot phase. Everybody's trying to get their gear ready to go up, and maybe a little bit of hesitance as we have these squads going in with maybe not their optimal builds or compositions. But here we go. We got some actions going in as Kubi does find a little bit of lightning bolts coming out from the gauntlet, but can't make anything happen. Does go ahead and use that spring step to close the gap and try to get a better set of eyes on these players, and does so just beautifully here as he jumps on top of this platform and lights this player up with some lightning gauntlet. His teammate coming through big time as he does manage to back him up with some slaps of the toxic gauntlet, and that would be Street Face and Kubi taking the first couple players out in that first engagement, down to 31 players already placed, and the action is popping off.
Yeah, now we're looking at Chaos, who is down with his teammate Megaverse trying to run away so low. They are the Pyro double squad for this game, and they will fall. So that is G3-1 going out early in this game one. You see Simps Anon getting picked up by Dicky AA, so they will be able to just keep running through this lobby, see what else they can find. I don't think the Chrono Master was helping Simps Anon too much as he went down in that fight, but they will recover and they'll keep on moving on.
Yeah, it's really actually just shows you that there's a squad that's not in the competition, but it just goes to show you how important sometimes the composition can be. There was a Conduit and a Stone Shaper, and really just took on some of the best players. That was one of your predictions there. Some just incredible players went down to some players that were not even our qualifier, and it just goes to show you how difficult it's going to be for some of these players to come through with classes and compositions that they're used to working with, and just trying to make it work with these Master of Elements set up and just playing the same class. It's going to be very, very difficult as we do see the pressure coming in from Zoltan and Taxith, Xbox player coming through. We got Stone Shaper and Conduit yet again, another squad with the exact same class setup, and they managed to come out on top with this exile here on the Judge Bread. Dealbreaker taking an exile, a full exile onto Dealbreaker in the kill feed, and we've lost half of the lobby already, ladies and gentlemen. We are down to 20 players. That's right. I said it, 2-0. We started with 42, but in the blink of an eye, we are down to very, very little as Master of Elements seems to really be taking a good start with some action here. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because okay, apparently we're just getting word that a lot of players missed this lobby, so that is why you might be seeing so many of these duos that are not running the Master of Elements like Zoltan and Tac Theatrics. So we will be pulling out of this lobby from what I can understand. We're going to be running back, re-queuing. Very interesting to see two teams that were not in the tournament getting some early kills and then an immediate re-queue. So looks like we'll have a rerun on that one, Timmy.
I was very confused for a second. I mean, we're getting some fun, some action. We saw G3 come through, so we got to see a little bit of our players show up, and that's kind of just like a splash in the face for everybody. Chat, everybody, it's time for some fun. Wake up, man. We're here. We're all getting ready to play, and that just woke everybody up as we had kind of pay a little bit of attention. But like I said, while we were getting to see that, I mean, it was unfortunate that we have to restart, but we did get a little bit of an idea of how difficult it's going to be for these squads that are just really, really great players, really, really experienced players, but just experience with having compositions that they've thought through. They've thought through how their play style is going to be. They've come up with plans for each situation. And a lot of times that's what makes or break a good competitive team, is having a plan or a tool for every problem that you run into. And when you're forced to go in there with a screwdriver, but you need a hammer, it's not going to be as easy to get the nail in. I mean, eventually you might get it in there, but you got to make it work. So we're going to see what happens as they go in and have to deal with these random classes. But it should be exciting as we kind of get reset and get everybody and get all the players into the next game. But I'm really excited to see. I think you talked about a little bit about Silent Kill. I think those two players are going to be really, really excited to see. Gigabyte and Darkbreakers, just solid gamers. I think if they were put in a regular lobby where they got to play whatever they wanted and composition, they might be the one that I would call my favorite in these lobbies. But it's going to be interesting to see how they come out and play with what they're given here.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. And I mean, like you said, we got a bit of taste of what this event might be like at the start of that. It was funny that we called it an early game lull as we didn't see that much fighting, but then in the blink of an eye, all sorts of action happens when we're down to 20 players. So we'll see if that type of pattern sticks into this game one that we're retrying now. And we'll see if that type of flow really is what happens in this Master of Elements. And that surprises me because I thought teams would be taking it quite slow, like we saw in the early game. And I thought that would be more consistent, but people were ready to take fights to me.
And I think that that had a little bit to do with the match being kind of half full of our players and half not. But I also think that we're going to see a lot of decisions made based on the class given. Obviously, if you get two pyromancers on your team, you might want to go for it. Pardon the pun. A more of a hot drop. You might want to go down and sling some fireballs because that class excels on early on engagements. Same thing with Stone Shaper. You get to drop down, you get a few shockwaves off, you get an exile. On top of that, you get free sustain with armor. So it's like these players are definitely going to have to think about what they're given. I'm a parent, so I always kind of like teach my kids. Sometimes you don't get what you want. Sometimes you have to take what you get and do what you can with it. And that's exactly what they're going to be going through right here. So I'm excited to see exactly, how do they build the wrath out of toothpicks that they get if they're stranded on an island. This is going to see some creativity coming from these players and see what they can come up with for sure.
Yeah, I mean, G3's got to be pretty happy with this Riku as well. They went down very, very early in that game one. It was to a team that was not in the event, so we do give them a bit of credit on that regard. But they must feel good about getting a Riku. They don't have to use game one as their throwaway game because remember, we're playing 6 games total, but only 5 count. For each duo, their lowest scored game of the 6 will be removed, but G3 doesn't have to worry about that because we will be replaying game one. So that's a breath of fresh air for them at least.
Yeah, for sure. Got a little bit lucky there. It's going to be interesting also. I think this one's all played on North America East, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be all 6 rounds, all on the same region. Everybody will be playing on their preferred latency and ping. And, they won't have to consider, do we go as hard as we can in this first try and then just try to coast as much as we can on the third or the second half? Or do we just, now we get to try as hard as we can every single round, try to put up our best game every single round because we know that we have the latency behind us. And I would say that they normally have to change their play style and their class depending on their latency, but they don't really have a choice in this particular tournament. But it's still going to be interesting to see them not have to really deal with the different regions, the different latency moving in. But definitely interested to see some of these newer players too. Royal Militia on the roster here. We got Saorian and FBI Monkey Man, maybe newer to the Element community. I've noticed them probably in the last week or so or a couple weeks really showing up in some lobbies, and they're putting some time in and really learning to play the game well. So we'll see if they can come through and pop off in this tournament. But here we go. We get to jump back down into the action. Plays, take it away, brother.
And right away, we see G3 with a better start this time. Chaos getting the double kill to get it cracking. And Timmy, just like that, we're at 31 players and another fight is cracking out in front of us. Lavelle with that nice outfit, ready to take this fight, just a little bit low and getting sprayed down with that corrosion. Trying to make something happen here. Toxic Tornado comes out, but only a little bit of damage will stick. Now Lavelle and Wonderful are making that backwards rotation. Looks like they don't want to fight this, but Timmy, where are they going to go?
Not many places to go. I mean, they're in a beautiful, beautiful area. This Dead Moss location on the map just has so much structures, so much elevation, and so many areas that you can get to and kind of reposition. So they are going to find some spots to kind of set up and hopefully get to a better, safer place for the Tempest. But right now, I'm not sure if they really want to fight. We've only got, a very uncommon bell on Wonderful. Lavelle doesn't have any armor whatsoever. And these gauntlets here early on are not going to be the most optimal choices when you want to fight close up and down and dirty. So hopefully they can reposition here and find themselves some more loot before they have to get into these engagements. But down to 31 players already. We see Small Mite showing up in the kill feed with an exile on Buckles and Razzie taking Razzie down, as it looks like the competitive players in this particular lobby are taking a little bit slow as far as we can see, getting that loot, making sure they get themselves completely prepared for any situation. But just as I say that, we see a little bit of action popping off as G3 Megaverse. G3 will not stop, has not slowed down a single bit, taken up on the kill feed again as Benji will fall, and that will be a complete secure exile onto Benji there. Megaverse fall into Armor X1 there, as it looks like G3 will be going in and half of the squad is down fighting for their life right now. There's some action going on around on this map somewhere. As soon as we can get over to hop to it, we'll show you exactly what's happening. Slammer Rocks and Copyright here, able to scoop up the loot and prepare for the next fight.
Yeah, something to pay attention to for anybody watching right now is that the body talent is chosen by the players. So they're locked into Spellslinger Ambi, but as we go through these games, as we rotate through duos, make sure you're paying attention to the body selection. So we see Slamrocks decided to go with Fortitude, and we also saw multiple players running Dexterity before, but now we get into a fight. Big Zetz is trying to take the shot. He's so low, just about to go down here. They're double Frostborns, and he might need to use that Frozen Alacrity to escape, but his teammate's going to come help him out. He throws that fadeaway Toxic Slap to get the kill, and now he's going to move on to the next target. His teammate just watching on that fight as Big Zetz blows himself up. Timmy, that is just tragic.
Oh, unfortunate. You have to be careful about where you're throwing that thing and make sure nothing's in your way. Very, very unfortunate, as it looks like Big Zetz and his teammate actually had a really good position here. They were playing this Frostborn class very successfully, as they kind of just kept the enemy in between them and made sure they kept pinging them. But at the end, it looks like Big Zetz falls to himself, and unfortunately, he's going to leave his teammate Skippy up here by himself, out to try to fight it out 1v1. Action going off in the field here, and it looks like he's able to dodge some fireballs and shockwave just with a very, very little sliver of health, as he just jumps around, slowly circling his opponent and somehow still surviving shockwave after shockwave, just at the heels, at the toes of Skippy here. Jumps up finally to get some high ground position, and that's where he wants to be with that Frostborn gauntlet. It looks like the fireball will not be able to connect, and we're going to have to get over here to Skippy's side to see exactly what's happening. Skippy with a little bit of armor on hand, not much health, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty even fight right here. And a beautiful snip of the Frost snipper. I call it a snipper, but it's called a sniper. You know, he does a quick flick and makes it happen up in the sky. And Skippy's going to be able to jump out as the Spellstorm has now pushed in. And Skippy feeling a little bit worried that health might go down a little bit too quickly if he doesn't find a way to recuperate. Going back in to be the hero for his teammate, and might be able to bring up Big Zetz, but no, gets back just in time to find the revival of an enemy and a boulder to the face. Big Zetz goes down. Skippy puts up a valiant effort, but will fall to the hands of the Gotham as these players manage to sweep up the Dust Bowl area.
Yeah,
wow.
Nice play by Gotham to just stay calm, finish off that fight. Don't get too overwhelmed when you're fighting in the storm. You gotta be patient. It's not ticking for very much right now as well, so Gotham knew he had a little bit more time to reset himself and get that final kill. They will move through the rest of the storm. 20 players left, so it looks like the pace of game is staying consistent from that redone game one. So much action, so many exiles, so early in the game here, Timmy.
Oh yeah, I love the action. Even in a setting like this where they're not exactly playing their most comfortable classes and comfortable compositions, they're really going in and they're putting the pressure out. I love to see it. Darkbreaker's picking up one with Shockwave there on the kill feed, and now we see Camsucks and Death SB on the Frostborn classes as well. I always love to see those Alacrity Trail. I always say, they're laying out the red carpet for themselves, getting that nice little speed boost, and it looks like now they find the perfect opponent, a player with Featherfall going up into the sky and just hovering a little bit too long with no cover at all. You want to find a nice Frost Gauntlet snipe to the toes as Camsucks lets one loose and makes it happen. All the armor gone, and about half HP is all that's left on this opponent, but manages to slow Cam down just a little bit. But the Alacrity Trail coming through, and it looks like Death and Cam is on a mission here, putting the pressure in, and now the wind spam coming through to pick up one onto MKA Approves. Going down to that orb form, we don't see any teammate nearby, and Camsucks is going to go right in for the exile. But wait a second, we found the teammate. Shockwave and Boulder to the back as Cam loses all the armor down to less than 70 HP and is forced to use that spring step to get on top of the wall. But oh my goodness, pulls out the Frost Gauntlet and says, hey, peekaboo, bam, right in the face, less than 5 HP. But Cam gets tagged from below as a psycho comes from the shadows. Cam thinks he's safe, but below, underneath the wall, he gets taken out, and Death SB is now in a very difficult situation with multiple opponents around, and Cam just trying to jostle to get to a position where he can come back to life.
Yeah, just you saw that shot that Cam hit to get the fight going, but then it just breaks down so quickly. It looked so good for this squad, but the second that Cam got tagged, it just all turns around. Death SB is still fully healthy though, so he's feeling comfortable enough to just walk back, get the res off of his teammate onto Camsucks. And we're getting back to some more action as now we see Chaos trying to fight off other players who are standing around his dead teammate, trying to do what he can here. Shadow Step will be off cooldown, but he's saving that saving that rune usage to just try to get a little bit more space. You'll see him break it out now, getting out of the way of the boulder, looking for that frost snipe, trying to track the player who's using the bedrock passive, and Chaos should go down here. G3 will fall, and that is SK getting the 2v2. Nice fight.
Really, really nice, impressive. Before Chaos went down, we did see the kill count on the scoreboard for him. 4 exiles picked up, both those players able to run Pyromancer. And I don't know if anybody saw it, but anybody get a look at the body talent that was on Chaos's choice there? He was running Scavenging, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm not mistaken. Scavenging on duos. Very interesting choice, very surprising choice in my opinion. But hey, maybe he knows something that I don't know as we jump on around here to find some conduits in the mix with some fireballs coming in close. Saorian going down to no armor, now jumps down to 75 HP or so as FBI Monkey Man staying pretty safe and finds a good shot with the fireball into a DF cloud to make that nice explosion and really chunk that opponent down a little bit. Saorian 13 shows up with low health and no armor, still comes through to secure an exile onto that damaged player that FBI Monkey Man was able to do that big damage on. Now jumping down to keep the pressure on as Saorian does get a lot of focus, but it looks like Saorian doing just a beautiful job of making sure he stays close to this structure, kiting this opponent around, and really giving FBI Monkey Man an open passage to come through and get some big damage. Looks like there's a little bit of third-party engagements coming through, so they're going to take a second to breathe before they get into the next fight. It has to heal up before this action pops off even more.
And we're getting back to Team Silent Kill here as Darkbreakers is chasing down an opponent, gonna just use that spring step on cooldown. You see how quickly he can rip that off. Gonna go for this exile, holding down the F key. Well, his teammate Gigabyte takes down Wonderful. So SK is separating from each other, playing with a little bit of individual spice, but also running the lobby itself with just 12 players left, Timmy. We are going to have a lot of space for these teams to work with. The lobby went by so quickly that the circle still is giving all these teams a lot of area to work with.
And I think, honestly, some of these players, and we kind of should have expected it, will be having like a much easier time when they get those classes that they kind of prefer. We see Darkbreakers there popping off with Stone Shaper. We know he knows how to rock the Stone Shaper, especially with the Wind Gauntlet offhand. And, it looks like they're kind of taking the approach of, kind of solo duoing a little bit. Both those players know that they're great players. They know that they can, kind of do a 1v2 situation on their own in most situations. And they know that they can't really rely too much on a ton of team composition. Obviously, they're going to be there to help each other out. But right now, they're kind of separating and doing their own thing and making it work. Big time popping off. FBI Monkey Man going to be going down to Gigabyte as Lavelle comes through with an exile with a Frost Gauntlet on the Saorian 13. And only 8 players remain. SK Darkbreakers, we've seen a little bit of, anxiousness from a player earlier that kind of got scared from the storm. But you see a complete, comfortable player right here in this experienced Darkbreakers as he kind of just he just stays in the storm, gets himself healed up, gets himself prepared, and knows how long he can stay in there and how advantageous it can be to do so sometimes. Jumping over here to Cam Sucks and Death SB on top of this ridge, and it looks like we are down to the nitty-gritty here, Place.
I just want to quickly mention as well that Team Silent Kill is on their Stone Shaper round. So one of their best classes, I would say, for the Darkbreakers. He's known for that Stone Shaper class with Wind offhand, and that's exactly what he's whipping out in Game 1. So keep that in mind. He will not be able to play Stone Shaper for the rest of the event. It's good that they're taking advantage of it while they can. But now we're getting over to Death SB, who's using that holding the sorcery to get a bit more momentum. Taking that shot now, hits for 63, but Brymer will secure the kill instead. Death SB does all the work, but Brymer gets the credit with a quick tag.
Oh, now in a really interesting position in the safe zone, but right in the center of the safe zone. And, sometimes I say that's not a great position. You're kind of surrounded on all sides. But right now, Cam Sucks and Death SB finding a little bit of a safe hold. They've got walls all around. They've got structures they can get inside and recover with if they need to. And although they are surrounded by some hills and some ridges here, I think they might be in one of the best positions possible if they can maintain this structure as their stronghold, their home ground, and their fortitude. Nice little frost lance coming out as he tries to connect onto what looked like a Tempest user over in the field, but can't make it happen. Another shot coming up as he kind of just takes some pop shots at these players that's controlling the ridge, and that most likely will be our SK gamers really popping up at the top of that ridge, trying to take control, and that's really going to be a great position. But it looks like they are very well aware that Death and Cam might be in a more opportune location to make this win happen. So they're going to jump on in, and it looks like they might be doing a little bit of invasion, trying to take over this area, but can they make it happen, Place?
Oh, these shots from Death are so close to hitting, but not quite connecting. He has those common boots as well, so he knows that his movement is not going to be ideal in the last fight. Gets one to go for 63 across the ridge, and will now just rotate out. Interesting strategy right there. We see Death SB finally getting the shot to go, but then just moving. Doesn't want to get stuck in a third-party situation. Him and Cam Sucks have a lot of experience playing competitive competitive Spellbreak, and they know exactly how common those third parties can be.
Oh yeah, and just keeping a good eye and making sure that you do not get kind of jumped in on by somebody that you don't expect is one of the most important things that help you kind of be a good player in a battle royale setting. Just making sure that you pay attention to your surroundings and you're always on your toes and ready to react to any third party engagement, because that's 90% of the time, that's most of the time how you're going to be taken out. So you got to be prepared for that, and you see that exactly as Death kind of just patrols the area. Darkbreakers and Gigabyte doing their thing, as it definitely was going to be silent kill up here on the ridge. Darkbreakers a little bit more pressure coming in and does take over that area, as Death and Cam will move away and kind of give up that location. But it looks like Gigabyte going to be able to put lots and lots of damage as this player just gets melted as they fly through the air with lightning bolts to the face. GT Little Hustle is going to be going down to Death SB as the circle encloses smaller, this tiny little cage full of rabid animals plays. What is happening here?
Well, Gigabyte's doing his best to lay damage out, holding this high ground as you see his teammate, the Darkbreakers, is fighting face on into two players. Darkbreakers getting some nice shots to go, while Gigabyte will throw that artillery fire off the backside. Another low target for Gigabyte to hold down that right click and finish off. 4 kills for him, and now we have a 2v2 to end the game. It looks like the Darkbreakers and his teammate Gigabyte are in a much more comfortable position. But Timmy, break down this last 2v2 for us.
Pushing in, fighting over the area that we talked about. Very, very exciting to see. But right before we even get into it, Death SB will fall to a little bit of wind spam. And honestly, we saw, I think, like you said, Darkbreakers really was on that Stone Shaper class. He felt very comfortable. First game of the day for them, and going in on a class that he's at home with really showed. Gigabyte and Darkbreakers was able to kind of just do their own thing with Stone Shaper, pop off and gather a lot of exiles on their way to the end. But at the end, we saw a lot of that teamwork start to come in. And you know what I noticed? That a lot of these players that are known for specific classes, Gigabyte known for that conduit, Cam Sucks, I know him for the toxicologist. They're able to use that ambidextrous talent to really still play that play style a little bit. So you had Darkbreakers in the front, taking that front line with Stone Shaper. You had Gigabyte just lighting people up with that lightning gauntlet from on top of the mountain. And it was just the perfect play style. By the end, there was really nothing anybody could do. They had complete control of that area.
Yeah, I was about to make the exact same point right there. The ambidextrous lets you kind of make it a bit more flexible. You are playing Stone Shaper. So as your example there with Gigabyte, more used to Conduit, he's playing Stone Shaper, but with ambidextrous, he can rock that lightning gauntlet and pretty much play a bit of Conduit as well. So still a nice win for SK to take in game one. We'll see what class they get next. I always imagine for this type of situation is what do the teams want the least? What class are they the most afraid to play? Because that's what I want to see. We saw right there with Death and Camsucks playing Frostborn, I believe it was. And neither of those players are exactly known for playing a ton of Frostborn, but they played fantastic, I would say. So going to be a good result for them. We'll see what happens in game two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think that you shut it out before we even got into, a good player making good decisions, knowing the game, experience that all shines through. And I can't, shout out to everybody that came through and put up a good game in that lobby. I'm not surprised at some of the people that made it toward the end. These are solid players. They've been playing the game. They come through every time after time after time and show us that they know how to make good decisions, regardless of they have their preferred class or not. And, I really do. I was surprised and kind of, taken aback a little bit about how well the ambi talent really is showing up and allowing these players to feel a little bit more comfortable. Of course, they have to play a class. They don't have their full kit, but they do have a little bit of familiarity with that lightning gauntlet with Gigabyte, like we said. And, Cam Sucks. We saw that in a moment wherever Death he backed up. We talked about it a little bit, how he kind of, patrolled the area to make sure they were safe. And that was a really great move. But as he was doing that, I noticed, I was paying attention to Cam. Cam was right up to the front. He had that toxic gauntlet. He was throwing down those puddles. He was trying to deny that area and try to kind of control and corral SK into a more favorable position. Unfortunately, GT came through at the end and kind of threw the whole plan out the window, and they were forced to kind of, do what they could do. And then SK kind of came through and really controlled it from that point. But really, it's cool to see these players still able to do what they do well in a situation that's not exactly ideal for them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you made the point before we got into game one that, usually players have a backline and a frontline player, but it might get thrown off by the double classes. We saw right there, Gigabyte was playing a pretty consistent backline carry where we had Darkbreakers running down players on the front line. So they're still sticking to these strategies that they've developed for months. And I think that's something we can expect. I was also in the line of thinking that players would be just going chaotic here with less of established strategy. But as we see, they're still sticking to their guns.
Yeah, and I think that we actually had a pretty good match with aggressiveness too. I mean, I think we both kind of expected a little bit more passive playing, but it looks like with a mixture of the competitive and the other people in the lobby, we're still getting some really, really good early engagements. It allows for some of these players to drop down, and even though they might not feel completely safe with what they have, they still feel comfortable with dropping down and maybe fighting some players that are not exactly on their level exactly yet. So maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable if they get a random player in the lobby. And that's kind of, it's part of it right now where we don't have a complete 42 giant lobby full of all competitive players. It's kind of adds another little element to how can I take advantage of that or capitalize on the what's going on in this lobby the most. And we see a little bit of Stone Shaper, a little bit of pyro action dropping down and really just scooping up some exiles early on. And that's going to be important, I think, for some of these squads. And it's probably going to come into their strategy going in.
100%. I think that is definitely something that these teams are keeping in mind, and always got to remember that the teams playing today have scrimmed so many games. They've played together for so long. Any little advantage that they can recognize and exploit, they will, and rightfully so. We'll see how that breaks down in game two. We should be getting into it shortly, but I did want to talk about G3, not just because they were the team that I picked, but they did not have a great game one there. And Chaos was on Pyro, which I know Pyro is not the best class for competitive in most circumstances, but I think of Chaos as a fantastic Pyro player. So I was surprised to see them not in that final fight.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I thought so too. I think we might have called it out if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Chaos that was running the scavenging for his body talent. I'm not if I'm not mistaken, and I think there's something there. It could work maybe, but I just feel like there's so much of a barrier for you to get the value from that talent with duos. You have to get that full on secure. It could be insane for you to help quickly recover and maybe even help you not have to loot consumables as often whenever you're getting health and armor back passively from getting exiles. But I feel like it just takes so long. There's so many steps that you have to get the value from it that I'm not sure if it's the right decision right now. However, like I said, when I'm pointed out in the beginning, I'm a caster, they're the players, so maybe they figured out something that I don't know. But I'm thinking that unfortunately maybe that had a little bit to do with their unfortunate early game. But we're going to jump back in here and get this second round started off as Wonderful does pick up a nice little exile on the Crab Lord 99.
Yeah, that is a good point you brought up right there on the desk. But I also will say that the choice of scavenging lets you have those pop off crazy moments because, as you mentioned, you do have to finish off the exile to get those resources. But if the stars align, if you finish off that duo kill, you get a ton back because you finished off two players. So it can be game changing. I really do like Chaos taking that approach with the scavenging. We'll see if he runs it again here in game two. But as you said, Timmy, we just saw Wonderful and Lavelle with a nice early fight, and the pace is at high again.
There we go. And I think, and if we keep having players come through like Chaos and like you with the big brain, like that just opens my mind to such like play styles that you can start to develop that will keep the aggression and kind of reward you whenever you get in that situation where you know that you're going to get that scavenging proc if you commit to it, and that might be huge. Maybe we'll see some very interesting stuff coming up from these players. The Wonderful picking up that second one for himself as the Stone Shaper brothers do come through in the Jed Moss area once again, picking up two already early on, and just look at that loot, just beautiful, epic belt, purple boots with the fur, and got a nice little blue amulet around the neck, looking real strong. And even quite a bit of upgrades on the talents as Wonderful and Lavelle looks like they pretty much have this area in control.
Yeah, I did think they saw another player. That is happening right here. Wonderful and Lavelle just running down. A very interesting strategy from the opponent player right there. Wonderful will take that kill happily. And with 33 players left in the game, we'll see if this continues with all this W keying. Wonderful and Lavelle, as you said, with some great loot. Lavelle just needs to get some boots. And we're getting over to Death SB and Camsucks. They are on Pyro this game. We'll see what they can do with that. And notice that Death SB selected Fortitude as his talent. So keep a track of those body talents as we go through.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna be key on kind of sticking out and showing out and coming up with some different strategies to be able to kind of overcome the competition. But Death SB and Camp Sucks, like I said, Power Manchers drop hot right here in the middle of the Halcyon, looking for some action. And it looks like they managed to pick up one exile for themselves early on, and that's what we see going on with Lavelle and Wonderful. I think that they have a big strategy. They know that Dead Moss is a huge area. They know that it's kind of new and it's kind of popular, and it looks like they're able to right now secure quite a bit of exiles for themselves over there. I think Death and Cam is probably thinking along the similar lines with Pyromancer. They want to come through and really get as many exiles and sweep as much damage as they possibly can with this really, really in-your-face mobile class, and both of them playing it together. If they focus fire, it's going to be really, really difficult for players to kind of do anything about it, and I kind of think that's what they were hoping on early on. Unfortunately, right now, it looks like they were able to scoop up a little bit of damage and maybe a couple of exiles, but it looks like most players are kind of doing their own thing on the outskirts of the map, as we still are in that 31 player count right now. Everybody kind of trying to get that loot and prepare themselves, as Death does spot some encroaching enemies coming through on the mountainside. A couple long range frost lances coming out from both of these pyros. Looks like nothing's going to be able to happen yet, but they are going to put some pressure on it and turn around to find some action maybe coming through.
I do love those little peak wars, though. It is too fun to watch these really great players just shoot over and duck behind corners, using everything to their advantage, as we see Death SB still on that high ground, playing the peak game once again, trying to get the shot off. 62 will connect. Nice shot from Death SB. Gets another one with 39, and this player is just doomed as Camsucks finishes the kill. His duo will come in to try to fight it off, but it is too late. Camsucks and Death SB with a nice 2v2.
Oh yeah, it was like watching flies come into a spider web right there. Death and Cam just kind of setting up shop in the center area of Halcyon, and kind of just sitting on the walls and waiting for players. I gotta say, man, it made me go, ooh! I saw Death peek out, throw out a fireball, and then just walk around as you see the immune tooltip pop up, and it just shows that he hit that guy. He broke the fortitude, and he just did it as he was walking around the corner, just like nonchalant, beautiful action movie stuff type of thing. But it looks like there's going to be a little bit more action, as it looks like one of the other players has gobbled up one of those dimensional Doritos and fallen from the sky on top of one of these towers. Going to get a little bit of attention coming through from Cam and Death SB, who's still staying right here solidly firmly planted in the center of this Halcyon area. And it looks like they really just knew that if they stayed here long enough, they would have more and more players coming in. Like I said, flies into the spider's web, as they kind of just keep a good bright eye open and wait for the players to come in and collect the exiles.
But this is so interesting. Now they're making the decision to rotate. They saw that other team collapse in, and they turn around to go back to the fight. So Timmy, it's so cool to see, in my opinion. You kind of can tell what the communication coming out from the duo is. They make the call to rotate, but then they decide we don't want to overextend. We want to go back to where we were comfortable, just smacking people up. And we see that they're just making their decision slowly, as now they decide to exit the building. Darkbreakers does get a kill into Wonderful, so somewhere on the map there is an intense scrap happening, and with 26 players we should see more scrap soon.
Oh yeah, pushing in closer and closer. Everybody's anxious and ready to fight, and now there's even a smaller area to be alive in, so they're definitely going to be running into each other soon, as Darkbreakers does secure a full exile onto Wonderful, looks like, and Copyright will get an exile onto Arctic Tempest TMO right after High Roll Hero will fall out to Small Light. And I gotta say, Death SB and Cam, just once again, we saw it in that last round, just such beautiful attention and thoughtfulness to their positioning and how people are around them. They're never going to get caught with the third party as long as they keep playing with this, always trying to stay ahead and calling each other's spots out and making sure they rotate accordingly. But we're going to jump on around to find the silent killers doing some stuff, silent killing people. Actually, they're making some noise. Frost shot coming out big time, but can't make it happen, as this player does manage to find a little bit of sanctuary behind this big old rock on the side of this hill. Copyright coming through in the kill feed, though, to take out GT Brimer, and it looks like a lot of the big titans in our tournament and our qualifier here are starting to clash heads and horns, and let's see who's going to come out on top. Silent Killer's really looking great so far, both very, very healthy, rocking that toxicologist class, and Darkbreakers also used to play this class quite a bit, so he's very, very experienced with it. I expect him to pop off and do well, as he does keep a good close eye on these players rotating around from the storm, trying to use this Frost Gauntlet to do something about it.
Yeah, he is just taking shots off to the side, does spot the rotation coming out from the opponents. We'll see if they can beat the other team to the punch. As you see, SK is making a fast move across the side of this hill, but they will get caught. And the opponent has the high ground here, so Darkbreakers has to be careful about overcommitting. You see him burn that Shadow Step cooldown, using that Vanishing Mist now. It's just scaling the side of this hill to me. They are just trying to take this fight head on. With the phrasing you use, they want to just clash horns with this other 2v2. We'll see what happens now as Darkbreakers does crest the mountain. Jumping down, throwing that cloud out. Doesn't quite get the damage, but will follow with the Shadow Step. Nice combo from Darkbreakers to just break down this opponent. That is Brimer going down. Gigabyte will get credited with the kill, and it looks like SK is just still running wild in game 2.
Beautiful, beautiful backup. Both players just hugely focused fire here. Great work from SK Darkbreakers. As you see a little bit of that experience I was talking about from Toxicology, just staying on top of that opponent, just stayed in the air for a while, slapped Brimer down, and then Gigabyte was able to come through and just clean it up with a slap of his own. Beautiful Toxicologist work as they managed to push on top of this tower, push on top of this hill and take it over for themselves. But wait a second, speaking of some action, it's just some big action going down here as G3 and Megaverse on the conduit are looking a little bit worried, a little bit pressured as Megaverse does bring up that TP to get a big bunch of distance, and that's going to be a great rune to see with this particular class. Going to get multiple charges with that conduit skill kit, and you're going to be able to really just make a lot of use of that distance that you're able to buy with TP with that conduit class. Chaos still in the front, but manages to get some armor back, but now push back a little bit further as Megaverse has been able to heal up quite a bit and should be able to step up to back him up a little bit. Lightning Sorcerer coming out to keep the pressure on, and now it looks like Chaos will be desperately trying to find a place to reset. Might be even going for the Doritos so they can make back up into the sky. I think that would be a smart move if they can make it happen, but where there's a duo here, they're going to have to make sure that both of them find a Dorito to get out of this, but I don't know if it's going to happen, Place.
Yeah, we see them spot one across that mountain. We'll see if they move for it, but they actually separate here. Chaos goes the other way, and Megaverse makes his rotation with double teleport to a different space Dorito. So each one taking a different portal. They did find one, so they will both make it out of this storm. Likely going to coordinate where they drop together. I just want to make note that Megaverse is now running scavenging as well, and I'm assuming Chaos is doing the same thing. So that is sticking consistent. They did this in game 1. We talked about what the implications of running scavenging is, and they've done it again here on the conduit.
They definitely must have seen some value there. I wish that I hope that along the way we get some point where we actually get to see that value on our screen. But so far they're making it out. They're making it through these lobbies. They're performing well, and I just can't wait to see it pop off and see. Show me G3 what the power of the scavenging is. I want to see it. But Saorian 13 showing his power a little bit, or their power, I'm sorry. As Slammer Rocks will go down. FBI Monkey Man jumping in with not a lot of health and no armor at all to try to back his teammate up. And I gotta say, I love that commitment, that backupness coming from FBI Monkey Man. But it looks like from the back he's going to get zapped and forced over here to the other side of this landscape. Going to find some cover though, and should be able to get those consumables drunk up. But if you take a look at that hotbar, he does not have any more consumables left, ladies and gentlemen. Does have that Frostborn Gauntlet in the pocket if he needs it, and now the teamwork coming through as Saorian gives him a little bit of Kool-Aid to get him back into the game.
It's so interesting to see no Thirsty in competitive games, Timmy. We see the consequence. That talent is always run in games, but now the teams have no option. They cannot run Thirsty, and we see how the resources get drained even harder in these types of circumstances. Watching FBI Monkey Man rotate around the side of this, just using this hill to break line of sight. I don't know what's going to be the cue for them to make a move. They're kind of stuck on this low ground, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I think maybe they're just keeping a close eye, maybe waiting for some action, maybe waiting for some combat to happen, and maybe sneak around when nobody's paying attention. But right now, they're able to kind of lurk around the side a little bit, and actually looks like there is some action that gave them the distraction that they needed, or some traction, I should say. The FSB and Cam Sucks looks like they're going into it face to face with some big monsters, and that might be the Silent Killers themselves. Big boulder to the back as Cam Sucks pulls back the Frost Gauntlet, but gets punished big time for it. On the low ground now, he's trying to use that firewall or that Firefly to reposition. Does finally jump on top of this tower, but it looked like it was a struggle for him. Able to use that spring step at the last second to get up there and find Death SB with a Frost Gauntlet to give him a little bit of shelter. And it looks like Cam Sucks will be able to heal up and not having that consumable issue that we've seen on some other players. FBI Monkey Man going down to Saorian 13. I think that was a team kill. Death SB with an exile onto a streamer mode, player number 29, and 13 players remain, as it looks like we have a little bit of a rerun from the last game, but in a different location on the map. I think we've got SK on top of this hill yet again. I think we have Death and Chaos on the, or yeah, Death and Camp Sucks on the low ground, and it looks like they're just kind of fighting it out there at the hill of the mountain. But some beautiful action as we jump around to find some players exiled before I can even comment on it.
Now we're looking at SK. This was the winners of game 1. We'll see if they can take game 2 as well. Look at Gigabyte just throwing down, as they call it, farming the toxic gauntlet, farming the corrosion, and we'll see if they can get a little bit more onto these low ground targets. Again, we see the strategy of the Darkbreakers taking that front line, running up way more forward as Gigabyte just pelts in with that lightning gauntlet offhand. We see all the damage coming out here. Darkbreaker does go backwards to meet up with his teammate. Gigabyte gets the kill into Pro Gamer 69, and this is just so easy, it looks like, for SK. They are just so comfortable standing up on this high ground. Gigabyte is just playing Kovacs, it seems.
Wow, this is just this is such a perfect example of good players knowing how to position well and doing it, executing it perfectly. I mean, they're not the only players in this lobby that knew this is the good place to be, but they got there first, they secured it first, and at this point, like you said, it just looks easy. They're throwing down these toxic puddles that are just doing passive damage as people kind of try to fight and just take damage over and over. Now a big, beautiful explosion as Death SP and Camp Sucks will go down, and Silent Kill takes the second dub, and just such a convincing win. I mean, we said it in the last game when it came down to the last 3 squads. They positioned well. We had Gigabyte on the back with the lightning, and they just controlled that area and controlled the last bit of that game. And it's the same thing here, but on a larger scale. We're going to jump back into it on a replay and see exactly what happened as these players just showed beautiful, beautiful display and knowledge of how to control this area. Tell them about it, please.
Yeah, Gigabyte is just unleashing damage. This replay doesn't quite capture the entire frame that Gigabyte was just unleashing onto players, but this is the last fight. We see how controlled they were in this final 2v2, getting that kill to secure the win. That is 2 games in a row now won by Silent Kill. They got to feel good about that, Timmy. That looks surgical.
Oh, yeah, they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they did it. That's as easy as it is. I mean, it's not simple. Sometimes it's a lot easier said than done, but in this time, they made it happen. They made it look like it was as easy as it was to say. Honestly, you see a really good combination with the toxicologist here, and I think as long as Darkbreakers can use a toxic gauntlet to throw up those puddles, and as long as Gigabyte can use that lightning gauntlet to do that big damage from the back line, they're going to continue to come through and do this over and over. And it doesn't matter what class you have, because they're going to be able to do this on every class. Just a beautiful, like, honestly, some synergy that maybe people didn't realize as much before. You have this nice ability to throw out these puddles. It's going to deny area. Like I said, it's persistent damage. If somebody steps on it, it's not only going to do a little bit of damage over time, it's not only going to slow them down, but that's information going straight to your brain saying, okay, this player only has this much health. I've got a conduit behind me. Hey, Gigabyte, zap that guy. He's almost dead. You know, it's like you're putting a whole a radar out there for your team to know exactly who's got the health, where they at, and who do we need to jump on. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, those are all great points. And I also do want to point out that even though SK put themselves into that spot and it looks so easy from our perspective, we got to give credit to Gigabyte for his ability to just beam those targets. I know it looks easy, but sometimes it's not. With all that pressure building, with players moving around the map all over you, Gigabyte just stays calm and drills a bunch of players. I would love to get a count at some point to know how much damage Gigabyte did in that final sequence. But alas, we will be moving into game 3 regardless. And I want to remind everyone, we will be taking a halftime break after this game 3. This event is all played on NA East. I know it's the usual, the standard is 3 games NA, 3 games EU, but that will not be happening here. Timmy, do you think that will have any implications on the gameplay, or will it just be the same as usual?
I think it's definitely be a little bit different. Like we talked about earlier, I think that a lot of players choose these classes that are a little bit more broad damage, a little bit safer to be able to play, a little bit easier for you to use on regions that are not specifically favorable for them and their latency. So in these classes, I mean, in this specific tournament, like we said, they don't have much of a choice in that. So we're going to see a little bit of no choice at all. So I guess it's going to be changed no matter what. So maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, it's still going to be fun to see these guys coming through And I really would like to see at some point if we could just get like a fly on the wall perspective to hear those comms coming out from Gigabyte and Darkbreakers. I wonder at what point in the lobby do they say, okay, this is most likely where the end circle is going to be. This is the location where the best location in that circle is going to be. We need to go there, and we need to make sure that we secure that now, because in that round and almost in the last one too, it felt like it was whoever gets there first wins, because they were able to control it so well. And it was literally an uphill battle for anybody that wanted to face them. I mean, if they wanted to come up and face Gigabyte and Darkbreakers, first of all, they had that ridge line that gives you the line of sight cover. They could throw Toxic over top of that without even seeing their opponents if they needed to. And whenever an opponent wants to get up to that level ground and fight them, they got to use rune charges, they got to use class skills, they got to use resources and able to make it happen. And by that time, you're sitting there with nothing to use against the player that you're trying to fight. So really good positioning. I would love to see when they make that decision and see if anybody can beat them to it. But if they continue this trend up, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to really put any kind of fight up against it.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I just want to quickly remind everyone of the rules for today in case you just joined the stream. So every team is sent a list of classes, 6 classes total. They must play the class they are told to. Everybody gets a different set. The duo plays both. So, sorry, if they get Pyro, both players have to play Pyro is what I'm trying to say here. The whole team must be one class. And right there, we saw Toxicologist for SK, but it goes back to the point you made earlier, that even though they're forced to play these classes with these talent selections, the ambidextrous lets you be flexible. Gigabyte looked almost like a conduit right there, even though he's on the Toxicologist class. So we see that these players are just getting back into their comfort zones.
They're really able to kind of lean back and rely a little bit more on the time and the experience they've had. I mean, obviously, it's the Master of Elements. They're put in positions with classes and using skill kits that they're not used to. However, we can't take away from the time and the energy and the effort that they took to master their own respective classes. If you're a master toxicologist, if you're a master conduit, then you want to be able to at least use a little bit of that you've been able to put all your heart into to learn. So it is nice to see at least a little bit of that there for them to have a little bit of familiarity, a little bit of comfort. And we see Gigabyte really using Ambient Lightning Gauntlet, and really just, it almost feels like he's playing conduit still. He's still doing his thing. He's still, holding down that back line. He's still putting himself in a great position and just lighting people up. And it's really, really cool to see them still be able to rely on that mastery a little bit while still putting them in a position where they have to think a little bit before they make a decision.
I just want to say how interesting it is to watch Spellbreak comp without Fervor and Thirsty. It is so interesting to see how that affects the game. I mean, we just talked about how Gigabyte was playing the conduit style on Toxicologist. I will never complain about watching Gigabyte play with a Lightning Gauntlet. He is so good at that part of the game, just beaming down players, target association, choosing who to fight off, and finding that high ground. But just going back to that point of you're forced to play into these classes, but you can make it work. And to see these players all try their best and try to make these sets come together, it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful whenever they actually they pull it off. It's great whenever, like I said earlier, they're kind of just throwing a box of random tools and here, make something, build a house. And sometimes they actually come through and do it. I mean, we saw just then Gigabyte and Darkbreakers, really, that was a performance that I wouldn't be surprised if it was in a regular setting of competitive. They played that well. It didn't look like they were restricted because they were popping off and they felt like they were comfortable and in control. So it's really going to be so cool to see them doing that moving forward. And like you said, without Thirsty, without Fervor, those talents have so much value. We see it used all the time. And that's what's got me excited for the update to Spellbreak soon, you guys. I don't know. There's no official date, but we should be getting around. I mean, early mid-March maybe, and it's announced that we're getting a new talent system, a 4-cost talent. So make sure you guys join up in the Discord, !Discord. You get involved with Element and all the future events. Right now we got some really cool stuff going on with the Duos Cash Cup. We got Masters of Element going on right now. But for the future of Spellbreak, things are going to be changing. Things are going to be evolving. These big brains that are put to work on the Master of Elements are going to be going into this next patch and showing you guys what talents are popping up? What's coming to the forefront? What's the most optimal thing to use and how to get good with it? And Element Discord is one of the places that you can be there and see those players doing that stuff. So join up right now, and we should be jumping into this next round real soon. What do you expect to see here, Plays?
Oh, I just quickly, before we get into the game, I just wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow is the Duos final. Speaking of Element events, we have the finals for the Duos Cash Cup tomorrow, so make sure you're there for that. But back to the action. We're watching Skippy drop in on the conduit, him and his teammate, and they are just trying to get some action started here. Looking at the kill feed, though, Timmy, there's fights all over the map.
Oh, yeah, definitely. A lot of action popping off already. Down to 33 gamers. Lost 10 people already, at least down into that orb form. And it looks like down to 31 completely exiled from the game here. And there's a lot of action popping off. Slamrock's copyright on that Pyromancer. Going to be some very great classes to use early on. Has Fortitude already completely 100% upgraded. And that is insane. For you guys that don't know, Fortitude will give you a shield that will block the incoming damage. And as you upgrade it comes back, it regenerates even quicker and quicker. And when you have it all the way upgraded to level 3, a lot of times during the middle of a fight, you'll get that nice blue shield around you, and it'll absorb a damage. It'll help you actually win that engagement. So very important to be able to get those scrolls read up and educated. And Slamrock's really on it from the early start. Wow.
I mean, also looking at that legendary Spring Step, we've seen Spring Step kind of take over the meta almost, and part of that is how low the cooldown is at higher ranks. Look at Slamrox just using Spring Step on a 4-second cooldown. That is massive for in a fight when you can just be bouncing around, so hard to pin down. We'll see if they can take advantage of that, as we now see the Toxic Gauntlet getting pinged out, the decision, and Slamrox remembering that he's running Spellslinger, so he can actually put that in the pocket.
Oh, very nice. And this is one thing that you have to consider when you're playing BRs that some players just don't. When you drop down and you get this kind of loot, push the gas pedal, go aggressive. You have such an advantage of other players that are struggling or still looting, and especially with a class like Pyromancer, I expect to see some big aggression if they can find some players. But speaking of aggression, we take a quick look in the kill feed, and the Silent Killers are already doing their thing. Darkbreaker's coming through to pick up a double. That's with Frost and Toxic, and it looks like they might be Frostborns this game. I'm not sure until we hop over to see what's happening. But it looks like we got G3 still doing their thing, as both players are running that Fortitude, kind of like we expected. Not as educated as the player before, but still going to be looking nice and shiny with that blue tint on hand. Tempest on Megaverse and Chaos with some pretty good loot with the belt and boots and amulet. Jumping over to Deadpool to find some action to see what happens with these conduit players plays.
It's interesting though, G3 switched off of scavenging, so keeping track of that, they did go to the Fortitude selection. Interesting, maybe they decided that it wasn't paying off in those first 2 games and they made the switch, but now, as you said, we're watching Big Zetz and his teammate. It looks like there's an orb here that Zetz is going to go exile while his teammate chases off the straggling last member of the duo. 23 people left in this game, Timmy, and the games just get faster.
Yeah, this is crazy. They keep going down. I really wasn't expecting this, the aggression. But like I said earlier, I think that we kind of both talked about how sometimes when you've got a class that just really excels at these early engagements, you're probably going to drop down and really want to make the most of that. So I think that's what we see happening a lot of the time, as now the lobby's kind of been thinned out. And we've got more of a concentrated, saturated level of skilled players in this mix and doing their thing, as Gigabyte and Darkbreakers will not slow down a bit. And it looks like Chi Twister and Z Gamma will go down to some wind spam and some toxic slaps. 6 exiles. That's 6 exiles picked up here for Darkbreakers, running the Fortitude as that secondary talent on the body there. Interesting, not Fortitude. I'm sorry, Dexterity. Most players running that Fortitude, but we want to see Dexterity for Dark, and it's going to give him a little bit more leeway, a little bit more wiggle room on that mana usage. Going to be able to really, have that mana there for whenever he needs to pop out a nice slap with a Toxic or use that Frostborn Gauntlet to get some good shots off. And it looks like the Frostborn's going to be taking a shot at some players at the Peekaboo across the tower.
Yeah, and for anyone who's just joining us, SK has won games 1 and 2, and now it looks like they're on a similar path for game 3. As you said, 6 exiles for Darkbreakers already in this game. Got the legendary fire in the pocket. All of his items and loot are looking good to go. They must feel great about their stance in this match.
Definitely. I mean, it looks like they're on track. Like you said, they won round 2, round 3. They're on track to make it at least into the top 10 situation, or they already have. Oh my goodness. And they're picking up huge numbers on the way. G3 Megaverse coming up with a nice big snip of that sniper. Frostland's coming out and making it look scary, as he will connect and take out FBI Monkey Man and Saorian 13 from the game. Megaverse does get the credit for it with the shockwaves, but that Frost Lance definitely came through to make it look painful, actually, using that Alacrity Trail to go ahead and skate on up and lay down a little bit of speed boost for Megaverse and Chaos here. They're going to be trying to race here. I think this is the point where they're kind of racing for that high ground position. You see these two players here. This could be Silent Kill going already to the high ground, getting that ridge, that mountain position, and really trying to set up shop once again and secure that location. Frostland's coming out, and it looks like Megaverse will get tagged as he loses a huge chunk of armor. And now GT Little Hustle and Brimer showing up in the kill feed to get a couple of snacks gobbled up by the name of Mrs. Runch and Laser French there. 15 players remain, and Chaos and Megaverse look like they want to go to the top of that mountain. I don't think they can right now. This is going to be interesting to see how they deal with this place.
I mean, this could be a statement game for Chaos and Megaverse. They are not known for their Tempest. They can show the entire community that they are not to be slept on. They can play any class. We'll see what they can do with it. Unfortunately, Chaos does have a green Frost and a green Toxic, so his items are not exactly where he'd like them to be. But now we're watching Lavelle take that quick dodge into the enemy team. Doesn't get it to go, so now trying to back up, but the enemies will be pressing him. Lavelle moving backwards with the SQ. You see his teammate is a little bit lower onto that far side. We'll see him try to connect with that Frost, but can't quite get it. And Wonderful is on the front, just kind of lost in this engage. They need to get linked back up and try to focus on one target, I think, Timmy.
Definitely, this is definitely an issue and something you have to be considerate of in squad modes. That you just cannot get separated that much. You have to be there to help each other out. 1v2 is going to be difficult for you to win, no matter what, no matter how good you are. It's always going to be a much more difficult fight. So work smarter, not harder, and make sure you position yourself where it's complementary to each other. Wonderful getting a little bit too far out there, a little bit too aggressive. Finally does come back in and gets nice to the side of Lavelle and allows Lavelle a little bit of time to heal up. Frostland's coming out from up above as Lavelle does try to connect with a big damaging snipe, but it can't make it happen. Wonderful just throwing down that those slaps of the Toxic Gauntlet and throwing down the puddles, kind of controlling that area a little bit. Finds a gamer up in the sky, tries to connect with the Frost Lance for Lavelle, but can't make it happen. Instead, throwing down some more puddles to make sure they can deny this player. And now we see the Dorito close by. They know exactly what is about to be attempted, and Lavelle does not want to allow it to happen. I'm not sure if this player is actually going to be able to get into that Dorito. If Lavelle and Wonderful give up, then most likely they should be able to reposition, but they might have to pick a different Dorito if they plan on going up into the sky here.
Yeah, there is a cast time on selecting those rifts, so you do have to hold down your F key to get it to go. Lavelle knows that full and well, and that is why he's just threatening the frost shots at anyone who approaches those Doritos. You see him now aiming one down, just shooting into the air, waiting for maybe somebody to jump into it. We'll see what happens here as Lavelle will rotate with Wonderful. Now, they're the ones holding the high ground in this situation. So in the previous games, we saw SK just stomping out other teams from the top of the hill, but looks like Lavelle and Wonderful have found themselves a little bit of real estate.
Oh yeah, definitely in a great position. If they can make it a little bit higher and get ahead of this storm, it could be a really, really big move for them. Unfortunately, they're not in the safe zone yet, so they will be a little bit bullied by that spell storm, pushing them on in and picking them in spots they don't want to go. But hey, it looks like they got the answer for it as Skippy gets a little bit of the toxic stuff in his face, going down into orb form, and now Lavelle getting a little bit more damage than he wants. Does lose all of his armor, down to 66 HP, uses that dash into the Vanishing Mist, and once again getting that recloud going on onto the Alacrity Trail and trying to find a place to heal up and reset. Fortitude coming back on hand as it is all the way educated, and that's going to be beautiful, a little bit more sustained, a little bit more safety for him to use while he heals up. And it's beautiful to see the Alacrity Trail down as he can get a lot of speed, a lot of distance still while healing up, and that will be huge as they are forced from the spell storm, like I said, and kind of have to find a new place to set up shop as they move into these top 13 contenders remaining in this lobby.
Yeah, Lil Hustle getting sniped from the back while trying to rotate through the storm. That is not good for him. Him and his teammate will have to try to move as fast as they can. Still drinking pots while he does this rotation. His teammate has left him in the dust a little bit. Brimer just wants to get out of the storm, but Lil Hustle's fully exposed. Some disaster could strike him now, and his teammate is nowhere to be found. Timmy, once again, we see these teams separating a little bit, trying to play off of each other, getting a little bit more individual work in, and we'll see if it can pay off for GT as Lil Hustle will barely make it through the storm.
Coming on in, it looks like there's already action waiting for him as Breimer is there, kind of taking some shots, not too deep into it though, as he does manage to come in and kind of just get that health potions, the remaining health potions that he has drunk up, desperately trying to find some more, and does find a little bit, a few little shards there, and we'll be able to top them all the way back up. But only 9 players remain, and they are already pinned down, coming from the storm and already pinned down in this location. Have a couple of players on either side, and they really got to make some tough decisions, as it looks like whoever has managed to take the top of that mountain will be in a position to really control this lobby yet again for the 3rd round in a row. We see players taking the ridge and really using those frost gauntlets to poke out some damage and keep people at arm's length and really kind of just secure their area up there of control. 4 players picked up from GT Low Hustle. So GT, popping up in the kill feed over and over throughout this round, has managed to secure a few exiles, really getting some damage out there and making their way into the final fight. But can they manage to survive as the storm pushes them on in, and it looks like we might have a king of the castle on top of this hill here.
Yeah, once again, as you said, high ground will be the defining piece for this final fight. We see G3 trying to get a reset here. Chaos is still healthy and ready to go, but his teammate needs a little bit of resources. Chaos now watching this fight. Megaverse gets caught in the toxic tornado using this line of sight break. Chaos is just waiting for this team to get closer so he can go in for the kill. Now he does it, throwing out the fireball, but S-keying with the dash to try to keep space. You see how G3 is just using all of their positioning to their advantage as best they can, but it's not going well for Megaverse. He is low now. Chaos is just following his teammate, trying to get out of this, but he's in a 1v2. This is not good for G3. It broke down so quickly, Timmy.
Yeah, I really think the Chaos was kind of lurking and waiting there, kind of let Megaverse kind of dangle himself out there in front of everybody as the bait, and they kind of pushed in to take him, to push on him, and it looks like he took a lot of damage for his treble, lost all of his armor, and I think that was the plan for Chaos to kind of jump up and take advantage of those players that were overextended because they thought it was a 1v2, but unfortunately kind of get a little bit bullied and loses control of that situation, and now it looks like they might even be pinched and surrounded as this other squad was managed to wrap around here and kind of get a good pincher situation. Megaverse and Chaos going into this fight with no armor at all and less than 90 HP. Beautiful fireball from up above though, as the Tempest into the updraft will make a really good place to get that high ground perspective, but not for long as Chaos does go down. And as Megaverse tries to run for his life, the Tempest is just going to put him in a position where he's an easy sniper target. Really put up a great fight there, had a great position, but in the end, kind of got pushed off their spot and kind of got pinched between 2 players.
Anybody in the lobby must be a bit scared seeing Gigabyte with the legendary lightning in the pocket, but as we say that, he just gets bursted down. He will fall. His teammate, the Darkbreakers, is still alive, but if they want any hope of winning 3 games back-to-back, Darkbreakers has to make a miracle happen here. 7 players left. You see Darkbreakers using that sorcery to try to gain some more space. Finishes the kill, in fact, onto Breimer, so now maybe we'll get the chance to res his teammate, but it looks like these opponents are not giving him even an inch to breathe. Darkbreaker's now getting jumped on with the toxic, low HP, trying to make some movement happen here. And it looks like the other 2 teams may start fighting each other if he's so lucky, but it will not be true, as Darkbreakers does get smacked down. And even with 8 exiles, he will fall. I believe that was Lavelle and Wonderful taking the W in game 3, Timmy.
Wow. It looks like SK did not have the high ground that time, but 8 exiles down for Darkbreakers. It looks like they still put up huge numbers, still made it up to that second place position, I think, in the finish in the end. And unfortunately, I think that right there, we saw a little bit of maybe what might be one of the weakest type of classes that you could get. Unfortunately, Tempest, if you get Tempest and you're relying a lot more on that, that updraft and you're staying in the air more, maybe if you're not as used to using line of sight to get away from the lightning gauntlet or the frost gauntlet, you're really going to get punished for it there. And you see Megaverse and you see the G3 team Chaos come through. Great players. They've been playing the game for a long time. They know what they're doing. They know how to do what they can in every situation. But you see multiple times them using that updraft or that ability to jump off the ground, and it just put them in a position where every player has a frost gauntlet in their hand because they got spell slinger, and they bring it out every time they see a Tempest in the air. And that's what happens, unfortunately, there. But really, really big numbers coming out for some players. We saw a little bit of a fight for the high ground position. SK didn't manage to grab it that time, so it looks like they will lose in round 3, taking round 1 and round 2. But really put up a bunch of good numbers, and really, shout out to Lavelle and Wonderful. Lavelle is a player that comes through and always competes and performs really, really well. So I'm not surprised to see them taking round 3 dub.
For sure. And the team name there. So Lavelle and Wonderful's team is called Papegomancer. So congratulations to them for winning that game 3. It was interesting though, because SK looked so comfortable to go into that last 2v2, but then all of a sudden Gigabyte goes down, and then you have Darkbreakers trying to fight 2 players at once with his cooldowns resetting. It's just a disaster all of a sudden. In the snap of your fingers, Timmy, the entire situation flips for Silent Kill. They will not win game 3. That instead goes to Papegomancer. And we have a quick halftime break here. It should be about 10 minutes, I believe. And then we will come back for games 4, 5, 6, and the final result of today's qualifier.
It's going to be a great time. I can't wait to see what comes back with a little bit of, people feeling fresh, maybe some new ideas to maybe combat this. Right now, it looks like Silent Kill might be running away with this qualifier. But, like we said, we're only halfway through it. It's still anybody's qualifier, and I can't wait to see what happens when we get back. Hopefully we see you guys then.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from that halftime break. We have 3 more games to go, but first, I think we should take a quick recap at the current scores.
Let's take a look and see exactly what we have going on. I'm not going to say that anybody's too surprised at that first place Silent Kill coming through, winning those first 2 rounds, assuredly showing up that they know how to come through and make it work with this Master of Elements crazy rule set. But we do have a little bit of surprising stuff going on as we do go down a little bit lower. Papegomancers at that second place at 732. That's going to be Lavelle and Wonderful coming through with some good points on the board. Galaxy tiered at third place, 683. We got fourth place belongs to CGN at 572, and fifth place belongs to Steve Sucks SB. We're going to find our way on down to sixth place is actually G3. Really talented players, but you can just see that how close all of these scores are and how much opportunity is going to be coming through in the second half for these players to kind of go through the ranks and secure those top spots. We got Royal Militia at number 7 at 356, and then the Bozos at 265 in 8th place. And rounded at the bottom at the end, Royal Ravens coming in at 9th place, but not too far from 8th and 7th place with 236 points showing up, and really a close match from second place down. Like we said when we first got over in here, Silent Kill really showing up and really decidedly taking those first couple of rounds, and even really comes close to winning that third one in a row. But can these teams come through with some kind of strategy to stop this almost immovable object coming through here place in these lobbies?
It's going to be tough. I mean, even in the game that Silent Kill just lost, so they won games 1 and 2, and they lost game 3 to Papegomancers. Even in the game that Silent Kill lost, I think Darkbreakers had 8 exiles just himself. I think Gigabyte had 4 or more. I'd have to double check that, but just to see that even in a loss, their score was still bumped up considerably. I think it's going to be very hard for any of these teams to actually challenge Silent Kill in that first place position. But the key is going to be who takes 2, 3, and 4. And I want to see G3 step up. This has been the biggest disappointment in my eyes. It was the team that I predicted to win the whole event, and they just have kind of fell flat in these first 3 games.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they kind of go forward. The interesting thing for me about this particular qualifier versus the other ones that we've done in the past for Element is we've talked about how before we had 3 games on NA East, we had 3 games on EU, and they kind of had to make decisions to kind of play to that latency and figure exactly out where they can kind of step up and make that best impression with their play. I think we have a similar thing going on here, but this time it's more about the classes that you're dealt. So maybe these first 3 games for G3 was not favorable classes. Maybe these last 3 rounds will be the classes they've been waiting for. They've thought, okay, maybe we put some time into working together as 2 Stone Shapers. Maybe we put some time to work in some strategies together as 2 toxicologists, but they haven't had a chance to step up and implement that yet. So maybe hopefully we'll see some halftime, second half shenanigans show up and kind of bring some of these players up a little bit further. But it's really going to be a fight for that second place, third place, fourth place finish spots, because Silent Kill is so far ahead. And at this point, I'm not sure if anybody can do anything to slow them down, really.
It's going to be tough. And I mean, another team that I wouldn't say has fully been underperforming, but has certainly not played to the expectations that I originally had is Steve B sucks underscore SB, which is Death SB and Cam sucks on a team. I mean, that right there is two of the best players in the Spellbreak community, in my opinion, but they just haven't been able to break into that top three. It's very surprising. I don't know if it's because of the difference in classes, how now there's this weird setup where you have to run duo classes with the ambidextrous, not much practice on that type of setup. But at the end of the day, that's just not what you'd expect walking into this event.
No, really, it's not. And I think that one thing that I see in referring to those two teams specifically, and I'm trying to think in my mind, what do I see different from Silent Kill versus them? And I see G3 and I see Steve B. Every time we get a chance to see them, they're playing those classes well. They're doing great as individual players, and they're even doing great with positioning. We've seen Steve B, a Death come through, and Cam Sucks really just pay attention to their surroundings, make sure that they move around, make sure they don't get collapsed on. But the one thing that I see with Silent Kill that I'm not seeing with these other squads is we still see that team composition. We still see that back line being secured, held down, and really just performed well by Gigabyte. We still see that front line in Darkbreakers. It doesn't matter what classes they're running. They still have that team composition. They're still able to back each other up and really just do what they're used to, even in a Master of Elements setting. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more of that coming through, and I think that's what these teams need to be able to kind of step up and compete with what Silent Kill's doing right now. But yeah, I really think that we got a ton of great players, some really, really, really great potential squads to step up and put up some good fights. But it remains to be seen what happens as we move in to the second half of this crazy qualifier place.
Oh, it's a great point you bring up. I mean, with G3 specifically, I always think that Chaos, in my opinion, is one of the smartest players in the community, always has such good communication with his duo. But in these games, it hasn't been as evident. I haven't seen this G3 decision-making that I'm so used to. I can't tell if maybe they're just off their game in the first matches, or maybe the rotations weren't favorable to what they had in mind. But we'll see what they can do with these last 3 games. Remember, this is game 4 of 6. So we still have 3 more to go, and we see Gigabyte moving around here, trying to secure as much loot as he can. They did seem to get this drop spot secure. We'll see what they get out of it.
Yeah, it looks like both of them dropped a little bit of health there. I don't think they secured any exiles, so we may have had an occasion where two competing squads dropped down. They both took a lot of damage, got both kind of low, and they kind of just parted ways because they didn't want to lose such early on. But it looks like they're able to survive, and now they take this whole entire Ruby Grove area, all the loot to themselves, and definitely going to be a lot to be able to pick up. But we're going to jump on over to find G3, a couple of really great players that we keep talking about. See if they can come through. Definitely some really strong classes here. Stone Shaper, both going to be such great sustain classes, some big in your face, and if you can kind of do focus fire, it's really going to be difficult to do anything about, as we see that beautiful cleanup from Gigabyte in the kill feed. But Chaos coming through with a Frost Lance to make sure that Megaverse gets a little bit of help onto that player. Now Shockwave seemingly traveling through the air almost connects on the streamer mode, and that will be a first couple of exiles cleaned up for G3. Looking nice.
And this is what Megaverse was waiting for, the Stone Shaper game. I'm not trying to take away from him as a player. He's fantastic on any class, but he is known for his Stone Shaper. Megaverse is known in the community as probably the best Stone Shaper player. So to see him on this class, and for people looking at the kill feed and seeing Megaverse getting that stone kill and wondering, is he on Stone Shaper? It's a scary thought. We'll see Death SB also picking up a double kill in the kill feed. And this game has a little bit of a slower pace than the first 2, I would say. It's interesting why that is. Maybe it's just all these players have decided to drop a little bit more separated in this game 4, but we see Megaverse and Chaos off to a pretty good start.
Definitely. And those are a couple of squads that we've been talking about. Death SB on Steve B Sucks SB, G3 coming through, picking up some early exiles, and it's going to be really interesting. I'm so glad you pointed out Megaverse being, widely accepted as pretty much the best Stone Shaper in the community. And is this going to be the game? Is this going to be the round where they go ahead and they just go full throttle all the way? Are they going to take Megaverse and say, hey man, do as much as you can, you're on your thing, this is where we need you to pop off and get all that damage and all those exiles? Or are they going to say, okay, we have somebody that knows what they're doing, we can play it a little bit smart, we should be able to rely on that Stone Shaper for Megaverse, and we should be able to clean up an easy dub? I don't know what their mindset going in. They definitely have some catch up to be doing, but as we go in, it looks like Death SB and Cam Sucks is down to throw down the damage. A little bit of fireball coming through as he does try to connect. Death going up in that sky with a nice little short flight cancel and a beautiful position bought with that flight rune to be able to throw down some fire. Not able to connect a single bit of damage yet, but still putting some pressure on as Camsuck's now using that lightning gauntlet as best that he can to try to secure an exile down on that remaining player. And he finally does it as a nice Tempest updraft does afford him the perfect position to connect with that lightning gauntlet. And that will be LFD Beards and Kyle Dr. 215 falling to the hands of Camsuck and Death SB. But some action moving on in this third party plays. It's getting dangerous.
Yeah, Death SB was just chilling for a second there, but once that Frost Shock connected, he's now on full retreat mode. His teammate Camsuck is trying to stick by his side as well. Both players will try to rotate out of Halcyon, but we're getting over to Megaverse now. Throwing out the boulder, not quite connecting. His teammate Chaos is still full HP, full armor, ready to go. Megaverse is not so healthy. He's got to get a reset here. Looking now to break that line of sight, get the potion off. His teammate does look like he finished the kill. Oh no, the Storm secures the kill, but we should be able to give the points to Chaos. You see Darkbreaker going down to himself. That was the work of Chaos. We'll see what the rest of G3 can do in this game. We're getting over to GT Lil Hustle, who we haven't been talking about enough today. Galaxy Tiered as a team has been playing fantastic, and we'll see what they can do in this 2v2. Nice shot from Lil Hustle as he's just putting in work on that Frostborn class. Timmy, take it away for this 2v2.
Wow, beautiful shot. Nice little frost coming out from the Frostborn here into that dash to reposition instantly. Does take a little bit of damage for his trouble. We're going to be able to put a lot of damage out as it looks like this enemy team will lose half their opponents. GT Brimer moving on in with that gesture outfit, looking real mischievous, coming through to get that exile as Lil Hustle does find a second to heal up and reset before he gets into this fight. Slammer X going down as Brimer does manage to secure that exile, and Lil Hustle pops around to find a gamer running for their life on the Alacrity Trail, follows that trail right to the gamer, shoots him in the back with a nice over 65 damaging frost shot, but cannot clean up that secure exile, and instead has to retreat to come back and back his teammate back up that has gotten himself in a little bit of trouble. Brimer finding himself kind of surrounded by a third-party engagement from two players as he does secure that exile onto the orb. Lil Hustle kind of retreats back to the back line to back him up, and Brimer will be able to get that heal off inside of this structure. But Lil Hustle really showing up as the cavalry to put that pressure on and says, shoot, get away, that's my teammate, leave him alone. Alacrity Trail coming out as they do skate away to safety more than likely, but Boulder on the heels, and they are in hot pursuit.
It is so interesting to see that quick movement from GT. I mean, I also think that Brimer got dropped on from portals. I think those two players took separate portals and dropped right onto this 2v2. So very interesting to see the portals come out in this competitive environment, see them used aggressively, even though people may think that they're just a defensive tool. Now we see Lil Hustle shooting at the targets that they just abandoned. We'll see what happens now with 17 players left in the game, Timmy. The pace of these games have all been pretty consistent, and that is a very fast pace, I must say.
Oh, yeah, I love to see it. That's what I'm excited about. I want the action. But speaking of action, some big action going on in that kill feed as it looks like we have lost the number one players in the qualifiers so far. The team Silent Kill will go completely out as it looks like Gigabyte will be cleaned up. Darkbreaker's going down there earlier as we did see an insane clashing of three top squads in that Halcyon area earlier. We had Silent Kills. We had Steve B. Sucks. And I believe that we had even G3 over in that area. And it looks like Silent Kill will fall in the middle of all that engagement there. 17 players remain as GT Galaxy Tiered really showing up, like you said earlier, already placing well in the qualifier and really showing up in every single lobby and putting on a good show. Pro Gamer 69 find a little bit of action from behind as it looks like a flash freeze will show up and slow him down a little bit, but he manages to get out of it pretty easily there and throws out some damage. No armor on hand as he just dodges a Frost Lance as the Alacrity Trail just goes left and right. He's surrounded by ice, but he has not been taken down yet. Nando B finding a little bit of pressure in as well as the armor has now been completely taken away and a little bit of health. But Pro Gamer 69 able to step up as he has now drunk up, reset, and managed to step up to be the help they needed on that front line. A lot of action going on in that kill feed though, as we only have 13 players remaining here. Plays.
Yeah, well, what a solid rotation from Programmer and Arnando. You mentioned it a little bit right there. I mean, Programmer gets low, backs up, resets the focus so that Arnando is now taking more of the damage. He gets his own reset off, well doing damage on the back line. Really nice 2v2 mechanics from this squad. We'll see if it pays off now, as Programmer will likely get this disruption. Doesn't quite clutch out the last toxic spray, and now his teammate Arnando is on his last little bit of HP and armor trying to run away. Programmer will get a pot off, but that just fell apart to me. It looked so good for just a second, but Programmer couldn't quite get the last slap to connect.
I just needed one little droplet from that toxic slap, just one, and that would have been it. But man, wow, wow, wow. This is what we were hoping to see. I didn't necessarily expect it from this squad, but I was hoping to see it from every squad. Silent kill coming through early on in these rounds and showing that you can still work together as a team, even with these crazy class combinations. And Arnando and Programmer 69 showing you textbook how to be good teammates. They find themselves, they didn't secure that exile, but hey, look at them. Full health, full armor, great position. They're moving in. They're going to get into the safe zone, and they're going to be able to make themselves into like the top 5 placements here already. Just really, really great placements and really, really good teamwork as Pro Gamer 69 picks up 3, but finds a little bit of action coming in from the Storm on the backside. Nice TP coming out from his opponent that does manage to find a lot of distance in a short amount of time. But it looks like his opponent's teammate actually gets left behind a little bit, and Arnando and Pro Gamer might be able to secure an exile onto one. It looks like they might have been able to pinch them away from each other. And there we go, Arnando doing his thing. Lightning Gauntlet coming through from the conduit, and we'll find Zealosuck's D-Water Law in that Storm, and we'll get taken down there by a little bit of toxic. Some damage coming from down below that will disrupt Pro Gamer's healing, but it looks like it's also going to give him the green light to go as he jumps down and says, hey, stop that, I'm healing. Player number 19 going out of the game. 11 players remain, and it is awesome to see this happen, dude.
Yeah, nice play from Pro Gamer right there, backing up his teammate Arnando B, but more action is to follow. We see that Arnando B will actually go down to the third party from Lavelle. Wonderful will be in the cut somewhere, waiting to come through and keep this fight going. Now we see Pro Gamer jumping up with the dash rune, has one more cooldown, burns it right now. He will keep his eye on Arnando's body, trying to work back towards it, but it's going to be difficult. Everybody in this lobby has their eyes on Pro Gamer 69. They know where he's at. So to get this res off is a little bit risky, but it looks like Lavelle will give him enough breathing room to pull it off.
Nice, nice, nice. And I think this has a lot to do with the small area, but oh wow, it looks like he got out of the fire and into the frying pan. Will jumps down to the low ground to try to get his teammate back into the action and bring him back to life, but unfortunately finds an icicle to the dome for his trouble. Has to now use that dash and a little bit of sorcery canceling as well to try to get some action, try to get some distance to get away from the encroaching damage. Unfortunately for Arnando, it looks like he's not going to be able to be brought back unless Pro Gamer is able to reset completely and just disengage, which does not look likely with the pressure and the aggression coming out from these players that just does not want it to allow it to happen. Wonderful going down now as Megaverse shows up, and G3 still popping off in the kill feed. Like we said earlier, Megaverse is on his Stone Shaper. Chaos showing up with that Frost Lance, such a great player in his own right, and this should be a really, really great round for G3. GT Little Hustle going down to Death SB as Pro Gamer 69 does find a little bit of a time to heal up somewhat, but the pressure is still on, and he's going to be in trouble place if he don't figure something out.
Speaking of pressure, we get right over to Lavelle as he falls to G3 Megaverse. So G3 looking great right now in game 4. 5 players left, and G3 Megaverse has 4 exiles to his name. I think this can be the game that G3 sets the pace back to how they want it. Gets themselves established as a great duo that we all know they are. We'll see them now push up forward. We know that Pro Gamer should be somewhere in this lobby hiding. Don't know how that's going to turn out for him as we see G3's fully HP and armored up.
Definitely going to be an issue for Pro Gamer there as he does lose his teammate in the kill feed. But he will be able to have a little bit of solidarity. He will be able to be a little bit more stealthy. And with that conduit class, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's what he's running, he should be able to come through in this small circle and maybe clean up some easy third-party exiles with some lightning bolts. But oh my goodness, Megaverse known for the shockwave, but hits a shocking Frostborn to this player that runs right past in front of him. Fortitude on hand, so he will not take any damage. But beautiful, beautiful Frostlands coming up from Megaverse. Couple of boulders coming through, put the pressure on these players, and now the circle is super, super small. 5 players remaining, and it looks like that one solo player might be able to come through. Pro Gamer might be able to take advantage of all this action coming out, but Megaverse shoots a beautiful Frost Lance through the tornado, through the storm, and makes it happen, but does get a lot of pressure on him as well as the Toxic Slap comes through and takes all of his armor and a little bit of health as well. G3 Chaos still alive on the front line, trying to survive, but looks like the pressure's coming through as well as a Fire Nado will slowly dwindle that armor, and now the HP is going lower and lower. We see Chaos jumping through and comes right back down to where Megaverse, as Megaverse says, okay, tag, I'm in. I'm going to jump up here to the top and try to take a little bit of pressure off of his teammate here and allow him to, get some nice boulders like that. Throws down a nice big sorcery onto his opponent, followed by a fireball to the face as he falls down, and Megaverse is popping off right now, ladies and gentlemen. You do not want to be in the sights, in the crosshair of this gamer. Pro Gamer 69 find himself in that 3rd place finish, but by himself did a great job. Shockwave to the ground as he does connect with onto Cam Suggs, but it's a 1v1 situation. Less than 10 armor, less than 20 HP, and a fireball connects as Death SB does say, give me them toes, and he got him. Megaverse popping off in a very, very tiny location. It was not optimal for the Stone Shaper, but Death SB playing it beautifully, positioned well, and managed to take the dub. Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I was having trouble holding back the reactions to some of the plays that we saw coming out from Megaverse right there. The boulder fall cancel into the fireball connection, that frost snipe. Let's get a replay of that. I need to see it again. But let's also keep credit onto Death SP for winning the game. With that in mind, here's the play from Megaverse to almost take the game before he got defeated by Death SB. Break it down for us real quick, Timmy.
Oh man, beautiful overhead position that he was bought with that spring step. Hits a nice fireball that you can barely even see as he falls down, and then just stays on that pressure with the shockwave, slamming the ground with bedrock, and really just putting out so much damage in a such short amount of time in a small place. In the end, I think Death really was able to position well and kind of comes out at the end, and really Megaverse doesn't have any opportunity to recover at all. At that point, he's so low, but really was able to control, like in the midst of all the chaos, he was just able to understand all of it and really just use that Stone Shaper. You see the experience. You know this man is a Stone Shaper master whenever he's able to use the shockwave and the bedrock like that in that type of area. It is not easy, but I think we got what we wanted to see plays. I really think that G3, I think Steve B, I think those teams that we really wanted to see step up, they stepped up. They started playing together, as a squad more. And I cannot continue without giving a giant shout out to Royal Ravens. Arnando, Programmer 69. Just honestly, personally, I was very impressed with the teamwork, the duo work. That's what I want to see more of, and I'm glad that we got to see some of it.
Yeah, that's a great shout out. They definitely deserve credit for their play. And I also want to give credit to Death SB for winning the game. I know Megaverse had some insane plays in that last fight, but the winner was Death SB. He stayed calm, stayed cool, and took that game for victory. It's interesting, though, when the game first started, we saw that Megaverse was on Stone Shaper. We knew right away that G3 was in a great position to fight for that win. Unfortunately, they don't quite secure it, but they will be happy with their total score. A lot of exiles, a lot of damage for them to put together. And as we get into game 5, to me, it looks like these scores are getting closer and closer.
Yeah, I there's something in the air, plays. I can feel it. There's a shift in energy. Something's happening after halftime. These players came in. They're ready to play. They've thought about it. They talked about it. They're like, listen, we could do this. Come on, we got to step up. Silent Kill still coming through and doing a great job. I don't want to take anything away from Silent Kill. Darkbreakers and Gigabyte, such a great team. I think there we saw Darkbreakers go down a little bit early. Was a very difficult encounter. I think we had we have G3, Steve Sucks SB, and Silent Kill all there in Halcyon very, very early on. So I don't want to take any away from them. It's not like they just went out to some random nonsense. They definitely, stood toe to toe with some of the biggest squads in this lobby. But really, really excited to see these other duos, kind of step up and, start playing more together as a team. Like I said, Royal Ravens was really, really impressive there. We've seen it more and more as we went on, as Chaos and Megaverse just showed beautiful teamwork, tagging in and getting, backing each other up. And that's what I want to see more of. And I don't think we saw it a lot in the first half, except for from Silent Kill. So maybe in the second half, we'll see some more of it coming through and see a little bit more of an evening out of the scores, like you said. But it's going to be interesting going into round 5, man. Wow.
Very interesting. And as you call out that point about G3 switching rotation, trying to make sure that they don't get too low, as Megaverse got low, he backed off and Chaos did the same thing. Chaos was close to getting a full reset. He did get interrupted by a tornado, I believe. But if Chaos had managed to get that full reset, it would have been a 2v2 in the final fight, and maybe G3 could have won it. So close. And the reason it was so close was because of their good coordination. Didn't quite pull it off. But I also want to talk about the other team that we haven't been discussing, but have been playing very well, and that's Galaxy Tiered. Brymer and Lil Hustle have been playing fantastic today. And honestly, as we talk about teams that are performing well and we haven't been mentioning, I also need to give a major shout out to Papegamancer. We did not expect them in our predictions to be coming up as hard as they are in these matches.
Agree. And honestly, I got to take I guess I personally, I feel like I was sleeping a little bit. I am very well aware that Wonderful and Lavelle are just great players. Lavelle, like I said earlier, just consistently shows up. And no matter who's on his squad, he's always there doing what he needs to do and performing consistently through every round. I know Wonderful, I've seen him in the lobby several times, a really, really solid player. And like you said, they're showing up. They're scoring well and they're performing well in lobbies that are not easy to perform well in. So really shout out to everybody. And honestly, shout out to every team that's out here doing this and competing in competitive Spellbreak. In my opinion, it's where Spellbreak really gets to shine. We get to see players really push the game and show the game off and how much depth that it really has. So thank you guys always for showing up and participating in our events. It's really what this community is about, connecting each other and having a great time. So make sure you join in the Discord for future events so you can get involved with all the wacky wildness that happens in Element. But we're getting ready to jump back in to round 5. We're getting down to the last couple of classes on the list of classes that they were able to play. So I'm wondering if there's a couple of squads that are still waiting for their class. We got Megaverse with Stone Shaper on the last round. Is there one of these squads that are known for a particular class that they haven't got yet? I'm really excited to see if somebody comes through and pops off.
I think that SK hasn't got Conduit yet, and that is Gigabyte's bread and butter. Once Gigabyte is on Conduit, you know his confidence just goes through the roof. He's already a fantastic player no matter what the setup is, but if we're talking about teams that are threatening due to a certain class selection, well, teams better be scared of Gigabyte when he gets that Conduit. Now we see Arnando B and Pro Gamer in a dire situation. Wonderful takes down Pro Gamer 69, and Arnando's just going to have to abandon him, Timmy. This is heartbreaking.
This is rough. Definitely whenever you kind of just drop down. They've got Tempest, not going to be the best class to fight early on. And it looks like, unfortunately, they do run into Pega Masters. Wonderful. We'll be able to get that exile onto Programmer 69. But now Arnando forced to be by himself, and we'll be able to play a little bit more of a solo, like Solidarity, like I said earlier, a little bit more of a quiet gameplay and maybe make it to the end and maybe secure some exiles and stuff with that Tempest. Going to be able to use that wind spam to probably get some nice, easy cleanups. But it looks like SK wants to come back into that kill feed and shows up big time as not just 2, 3 players go down. That's going to be a full wipe on the Kyle Doctor and Lift Bear, I think it was, from Dark Breakers. But Gigglebite definitely just jumps right in to pick up another exile directly after that. Silent Kill popping off and kind of wants to recover a little bit from that previous round. Down to 29 gamers already as the action is on.
I was about to say the same thing, Timmy. 29 players already. We just got into the game. These players just want to get to the action as fast as possible. We see Cam Sucks and Death SB taking a bit of a loot rotation, but now Cam Sucks flying right into an opponent and just drilling him with repeated slaps. Interesting strategy from the Destructor Raider to try to take that 1v1, but Cam Sucks handles it easily.
Cam says, my toxic's stronger than yours. But hey, wait a second. No, it wasn't. That's an epic one. Pick that up, sir. Really, really great job to be able to control that player and take him out pretty quickly there. Stone Shaper for death, and Cam Suggs has some, I guess, okay loot. Would like to see a little bit better rarities as they do make it in. But hey, wait a second. Silent Kill coming through in that last round, and look what class they got plays. It is it. The prophecy has been fulfilled. Conduit is being used, and Gigglebite is there to help Darkbreakers just go on a rampage right now, showing up to some gamers that are already in a fight, and that will be Danger Funk that gets cleaned up by a fireball from our boy Gigglebite. 2 exiles already picked from Darkbreakers, and it looks like SK, like I said, going out a little bit earlier in that previous round. Now they're dropping down. They've got Conduit. They know that Gigglebite's god tier with it, and they're dropping in Halcyon in this really hot drop. I think their mindset is here is we feel comfortable. We're in our safe space with this Conduit. Let's pick up as many exiles as we can, and it looks like they're doing just that.
Yeah, Darkbreakers and Gigabyte just running these players down right now. You see Gigabyte using that teleport, Darkbreakers using that teleport to cover this distance, try to find another kill. And already, even though he has no armor to speak of, Darkbreakers just feels so comfortable W-keying these players down. It's because he knows he has Gigabyte on his wing, on his comfort class. This is so scary for the other teams to see with SK on Conduit. I can't wait to see the final fight happening here.
This is just insane. There's almost no strategy. It's just straight run a film and take them out. But oh wow, wait on a second, getting a little bit too aggressive as they do get a little bit out of position here, and Death will get some exiles onto Gigglebite, go down to that orb form, but not going to be too bad as Darkbreakers were able to step down and get his partner right back into this action. Really, really dangerous there, but very, very fortunate for Silent Kill that Death and Cam Sucks got a little bit distracted here from another squad coming in to put up the fight. Cam and Death looking really strong still. Stone Shaper Rippers in the mix. Only that white amulet, not going to be the most mana in the world, but it looks like he's going to be able to spot a player here over here with no armor and not a lot of health either, using that wing, that flight gauntlet to be able to close the gap really, really efficiently. Lands a nice little shockwave as soon as it gets there, and now the lightning gauntlet coming through to land those lightning bolts and hopefully secure an exile here. And it looks like, yes, Camsucks will get one on the GT Little Hustle. That's going to be half of God tier, and it looks like maybe Brahmer might be having to leave his teammate here and try to find a place to get away from these monsters. But nope, not going to happen, as the lightning bolts come out from Death and Camsucks pretty much crossed their beams like the Ghostbusters said you never should, because that's what happens. Somebody dies, man. GT Brahmer and GT Little Hustle going out of the game. Only 16 players left, and this is some action.
Nice coordination, I will say, from Camsucks and Death, mostly on the part of Death for sticking close to Camsucks. They were just in coordination right there, chasing down players. And although it may not seem like a big deal because Camsucks had it handled, these fights can turn so quickly. If you walk into the wrong team, you walk around the wrong corner, it all goes wrong. So to see Camsucks and Death chasing down players in a coordinated fashion is huge. And we'll see if that can carry over into the final fight, as we see 16 players remaining and a lot of ground to be covered for these teams.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't know what's going on. I just feel I have such a sense of aggression right now. I just feel like everyone in this lobby is they're just fighting it out. I don't know if it's like the 5th round. You've only got a couple more rounds. You want to squeeze out as much exiles, as much damage as you can. But this is so awesome. I love to see the aggression. I love to see get up there, fight it out. If you lose, you lose, but at least you fought with all that you can. I love to see it. But also, we might have a little bit of thinking of mindset of maybe the great squads, the really good players are going to be a little bit able to reposition and get out of these dangerous situations. So if we're really aggressive early on, we might be able to kind of, separate the good players and the players that don't know how to reset or are not able to reset. So maybe this early aggression might be a big strategy for some of these players that are comfortable with their classes right now to kind of, weed out the non-competitive players and secure as much damage and exiles as possible. It looks like Wonderful and Lavelle will be able to take this Pyromancer class and run with it as they do reposition here on the other side of the map. It looks like they were in a spot that was really, really, happening and popping off, a lot of stuff going on, but they're going to choose to go ahead and get out of that and get away from all the randomness that is going on over in Halcyon. But it looks like SK and Darkbreakers lives inside the chaos and going to pick up another couple of exiles as Silent Kill seems to be running away with this lobby right now.
Yeah, they are going crazy right here in Game 5. But also, I do want to mention an interesting point about the circumstances of these games. Because it's ambidextrous and because Frost is so powerful in the meta, it's almost like every team has double frozen alacrity. It makes the rotations happen that much quicker. All of these teams are just moving across the map on those ice trails. But as I say that, it gets over to Gigabyte, who does not have an ice gauntlet, but nonetheless, they're using that conduit to keep their rotations up. Also, we see the Gigabyte got some knowledge potions, and Timmy, that is a scary thought for some of these teams in the lobby.
Oh, wow. This is definitely something I've seen from Gigglebite before. We talked about it a little bit before we went live, but he's definitely one of those players that knows how to find those, hoard them, and wait for the final circle or the most opportune moment to use it. And it looks like he's going to be very dangerous moving into these final fights. The FSB showing up with a couple of exiles as Bowdy Bear and Aloe Yark does go down, but now SK Darkbreakers and Gigglebite finding themselves on top of this tower and a little bit pinched. We got the Spellstorm at their back, pushing on in. They're not going to be too afraid of it, but they definitely don't want to spend too much time in there and waste too much consumables at all. We see some lightning coming out from the top side, and I got to say, I want to take attention to the way that Darkbreakers and Gigglebite is playing this game. They're both on conduit, but one has fireballs, one has the fire gauntlet going into the face. Darkbreakers taking that front line and really performing it beautifully and making sure that he does it. But we got the wind gauntlet on Gigglebite. That's going to be a great helpful CC as these players try to run away. We're going to see that tornado gauntlet coming out from Gigglebite has the fire, and Darkbreakers, do they both have fire now? They were using the wind gauntlet earlier as a good CC opportunity to hold those players in position, but it looks like now they're going to go for fire and lightning as they do kind of switch it up a little bit. We'll see how it works out for them though, Place.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And as we also noticed, Gigabyte has the legendary Spring Step with 4 charges on his sorcery playing conduit. He is going to be so hard to track down. He can just spam that rune on usage and it will be impossible to keep an eye on him for these opponents. We'll see what they do with that, as we now know Darkbreakers and Gigabyte are rotating. And I do quickly want to answer a question in chat. Yes, everybody in the game is required to run Spellslinger and Ambidextrous. dangerous, but they have choice of the body talent. So the dexterity was a choice made by Gigabyte, and every player has those different choices. That is the rule set of this Master of Elements. But back to the action now. We got Gigabyte and Darkbreakers completing their rotation, didn't run into any other teams, so they should feel pretty comfortable about just continuing to loot up, getting ready to fight that final fight, and executing.
Yeah, it's very like kind of surreal to see this happening as we see Silent Kill in the very beginning of the lobby, just kind of going crazy, aggressive, just in chaos and fight and fight and fight and fight. And now they're kind of just like, you know, going through the field and enjoying the scenery. They're completely healthy. They're repositioning. They're figuring out where they want to fight it out. And it just shows you how great they are at kind of recovering from difficult situations, even when they put themselves there kind of purposely almost, as they were aggressive early on. Death SB, though, as I keep looking up in the kill feed, that's a name that just keeps showing up. Kill after kill. Death SB coming through and popping off right now as Steve B Sucks SB really doing a great job in this particular lobby. Down to our top 10 contestants, contenders, champions in this lobby. And it looks like SK Darkbreakers and SK Gigabyte really doing a great job of wrapping around into this safe zone and keeping another high ground perspective to really pop off and control this lobby.
Interesting that we got G3 on the Toxicologist, and keeping in mind what SK's class selection is on the Conduit, it's an interesting interaction because Toxicologists can be quite strong into Conduit. You can get right up into a Conduit's face and slap them around. We'll see if that ends up happening in this 2v2, or even if these two teams end up in the final fight. There's still 8 people remaining, and we don't know how it's all going to shake up. We're watching Chaos accidentally fireball himself now, taking lightning damage on the backside. His teammate Megaverse is getting quite low as well, so G3 has to keep all of these factors in mind while they rotate out. Luckily enough, Chaos and Megaverse do seem to find this maze. It should provide them enough cover to get the reset off, but we'll see if anyone interrupts them, Timmy.
Yeah, I was able to get back up to full armor, but it looks like the interrupt might be coming through. A little bit of lightning from behind, and they got to be careful. I see lightning, and I instantly think, Gigabyte, is that Gigabyte? You got to be careful. Chaos and Megaverse still, you know, they're in it. They're ready to they're ready to reposition here, and it looks like they were able to actually reset pretty effectively there. But I've got to take a look back at the talents, you guys. Chaos back on scavenging. We saw it on the first couple of rounds. They took it away on the third and fourth round, I think, but it's back here, and it looks like they do see some potential here. I want to see this value. I really want to see the big brains. Megaverse and Chaos, really, really great players if they can make it work. But so far, it's not come through yet. Megaverse skating on in on that Lacquerty Trail does take a big chunk of damage to that armor, but it looks like the aggression is still coming out as he's not going to stop at all. Frostlands is coming out as this player does desperately try to get away, and it looks like maybe this player is low on health or armor. I didn't get to see his resources yet, but definitely feel a sense of we need to take this person out as quickly as possible as Megaverse closes the gap quickly, but will fall, and that's going to be wonderful in Lavelle going down as it is a 1v1 situation now. G3 Chaos does have the advantage here as he does have more health and armor, but wait, a third party comes through, and that is going to be Darkbreakers coming through to clean up and exile on the Chaos with the lightning gauntlet. That is not the third party you want to show up at your party in the middle of the party. I said party 3 times. Darkbreaker's now getting a shockwave to his feet as he does jump up into the desert for just a second, and now the TP instantly buys him the cover that he needs. It's a 2v2 situation right now, and it looks like Silent Kill might be coming through to clean up the remaining players' plays.
Yeah, this is a clean 2v2, and we've been talking all game about Gigabyte on the Conduit, but Death SB is having a pop-off performance. As we say that, Darkbreakers just melts Camsucks. Fireball after fireball straight into his spinal cord, takes him down. It is a 2v1 now. Death SB needs a miracle to 1v2 against Gigabyte and Darkbreakers. It looks like he's getting Gigabyte quite low, actually. Gigabyte is 1 HP, and Darkbreakers is now going to try to switch the focus, jumping in onto Death SB. Can he find him? Death SB has managed to just hide through in these little hallways, getting some beautiful fireballs onto Darkbreakers. Can Death SB get this 1v2, Timmy?
Oh my gosh, this is intense. He finds a little bit of a place to heal, jumps up to find Gigabyte healing over the wall, but it looks like the storm is going to be pushing in too close, and Darkbreakers will show up at the last second to clean it up. Death, incredible attempt. Such a valiant effort to try to come through and win that. I honestly, whenever Darkbreakers come through and he was able to, you know, even and take his armor away with the fireballs, I was like, is Death going to do this? But in the end, he will fall to the 2v1 situation. Unfortunate, as Camsucks will really kind of get just completely jumped on unexpectedly and just blown up, and it came through from what I didn't really notice until the last end. Conduit with TP. It just allowed Darkbreakers to just teleport here, there, everywhere. You got the Conduit class that allows you to have multiple charges, so he was able to rely on that. And then we also see Dexterity on hand. And for you guys that don't know about Dexterity, it lets you use less mana when you levitate and levitate a little bit longer. So that helps you with your mana management. So when you have something like Conduit that specializes in giving you 4 seconds of free mana charge, then you couple that with Dexterity that gives you even more mana, you're going to have the ability to pop off and use any of your spells in your arsenal pretty much at all times. And we see that coming through. That plus the TP, it's going to be difficult to deal with, Place.
Yeah, and I want to draw attention back to what you first mentioned was Camsuck's getting absolutely blown up on the front side of that fight by Darkbreakers. A lot of our attention has been on Gigabyte playing his comfort class, but Darkbreakers really made a difference in that fight. Death SB almost pulled off a miracle 1v2, and I would have had to leave the building if Death SB manages to get that off. But even though he can't quite get it, I still need to give that credit to Darkbreakers for making it a 2v1 in the first place. Camsucks is an insanely talented player, and to have him fall in that situation is game-changing.
That TP was just honestly, I'm surprised that I didn't know it. I noticed it until the last fight there, and maybe it just had such an impact in that last engagement that it really just showed up as really impressive to me. I don't know if he purposely had TP, if he picked it up toward the end or not. But TP is one of those things that we talked about, and I think the last time we were able to cast together in the Duos Cash Cup was TP got buffed in the most recent patch, so it's a little bit more reliable. And with players that are comfortable with it, it really does give you insane value if you can make it work. The problem is sometimes it doesn't always work like you intend it to be, so you kind of get stuck there with no rune or no option, no way out. And sometimes the verticality that you kind of lack from it is kind of desirable. But right there, you see it come in just beautifully to be able to reposition and take some opponents by surprise. Like you said, Camsucks is no slouch. But Darkbreakers was able to just appear behind him, take him out of the game, and then turn it into a 2v1 situation on what looked like might have been a pretty good situation for Steve Sucks SB. And with the 5th round going to Silent Killers, I would say there's not much of a chance anybody's going to be able to take them off the top from this point going on. So it's going to be a fight for second place moving forward. But who's going to be able to take that place?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I do think that win plus the damage and exiles, because remember, the scoring is not just 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter, or it does matter if you place in that first place position, but what really matters is exiles and damage. And SK had a lot of that as well. So I think that they may have just secured the first place finish for today's event. We have one more game to go, but I think it's going to be very hard to take that first place. What matters now is 2, 3, 4, 5. Where do the other teams end up? Because you need to get a good enough score to make it into the finals in 2 weeks. That's what really matters here. It's nice to get those bragging rights. It's nice for Death SB to almost get a 1v2 outplay. Absolutely insane. But what matters is placements. And placements. What matters is how you end up stacking in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. I want to see how this goes in game 6. Also remember that there's a throwaway game to be had. We play 6 total games, but the lowest scored game gets thrown away for each team. So for teams like SK that have played well all day, to me, they can have a very aggressive stance in game 6 and not have to worry about too much of a punishment.
Oh yeah, and honestly, it's kind of fun whenever you get a good squad come through that kind of secures an early lead and feels comfortable, because now I'm expecting some really fun stuff coming from Silent Kill. They're going to go into 6th round. They're probably just going to have a blast. They might even have a little bit of fun, do some crazy builds and see what they can do. They feel comfortable, and that's honestly sometimes it can be silly. Sometimes it can be eye-opening because they try things that they wouldn't normally try just to see if it works out in a situation like that. But I do got to say, really impressed with all the squads coming through in this second half. I said it in round 4. I've seen it now after round 5. I'm seeing more aggression coming through. I'm seeing more teamwork coming through. I'm seeing better Spellbreak played in this second half, and I appreciate that from all the teams coming through. I think maybe it took a little while for people to realize that, hey, we're playing Master of Elements. We're not particularly in our compositions. We're not particularly in our classes, but we can still play like a squad, and that's important. And we see that coming through more and more. And as we go into this 5th round, it's really going to be interesting to see who's able to step up. And now that they have that idea all together, who's going to be able to take it to the next level and really show up and impress us. I see some great names coming through. Royal Ravens really impressed me when we got a second to watch them. But also, as every other team stepped up the aggressiveness and the level of skill, so did Silent Kill. So like they raised the bar with everybody. As everybody tried harder, they tried harder, and they ended up coming through and performing well. We'll see what happens in round 6. I can't wait to see exactly what everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? We've casted a lot of competitive Spellbreak, and you notice that in competitive Spellbreak, it's the team that's the most aggressive that sets the tone. If there's a team in the lobby running players down, it's very difficult for other teams to change that pace, to play safe if this other team is W keying everyone. So when there's a situation like this game 6 that can be a throwaway, we might see an absolutely electric game 6 with SK running players down, Camsucks and Death playing a similar aggressive stance. We'll see how it goes though, Timmy. But I want to throw it to you. I want to put you on the spot. If you had to pick one team who will win game 6, who do you think would take it?
Game 6. I can't. I'm not going to say Silent Kill because that's just. Come on, I got just a little something fun. Let's see. Let me take a look at. You know what? I really think that I see something in the eyes. I see a little bit of bloodlust. I see a little bit of something special in the eyes of Papegamancer. They've been performing well all night. We're going to jump right over to watch Wonderful and Lavelle here on the Papegamancer squad. They've been performing well on the scoreboard. They're getting a lot of great points. They've been playing well. I think they even were able to secure one of the rounds. So coming in the sixth round, they're on Conduit. It's going to be a very, very strong class skill kit, in my opinion, if they make it work to their advantage. And we just seen how strong it was with the combination with SK earlier. So I'm thinking maybe Wonderful and Lavelle on the Papegamancers might be able to step up. But do you think anybody will be able to stop SK from taking round 6? Do you think it's going to be an upset, or is it going to be more of the same?
I think that there's a shot for Camsucks and Death to make some plays here and win game 6. I know Death did take that W in game 4, but they've been playing really well on the back half of this event, especially Death. And I think that there's a chance there for this duo to gum through and take a W at the end. We see G3 Chaos and Megaverse. They're on Frostborn for game 6. I don't believe either player is a very prolific Frostborn player, so we'll see how they try to pull that out. We see now Chaos just beaming this player. It's a bit of duck hunt over here, Timmy, as the 66 lands and Bong Liquor will fall down to G3 Megaverse.
And G3 got him. And right there is a good public service announcement for newer players. Featherfall, if you're there, you're probably going to get sniped or at least zapped with a lightning bolt. Really, things like Featherfall and Flight, they do have a place, but I'm not sure if it's in competitive. If you can use Flight, you can really use it and pay attention to your line of sight and use things like the landscape and structures and stuff like that to be able to get away. But in lobbies like this, where almost every single player has a tool for that mid to long range encounter and engagement, they're really just going to punish you for being in the air without any kind of cover. So you got to be careful of that. Megaverse and Chaos coming through and getting a nice little exile onto that player up in the skies. Looks like SK Gigabyte, and actually SK as a squad will not slow down at all. Like I said, I was kind of excited to see them coming through in round 6 and see exactly what kind of fun they were going to have. And it looks like the fun they're going to have is taking everybody out. A lot of aggression coming through, and I've seen SK Darkbreakers and Gigabyte popping up in that kill feed a lot already. We've already made it down to 26 players, and G3 and Chaos and Megaverse is in it to take another one out. Detective Baldman falls.
Nice play from G3 there. Yeah, 25 players remaining in this game, and it's moving quickly. We'll see G3 continue to rotate across the map even after finishing those kills. No hesitation from them, as I believe they feel comfortable enough with their loot. Already almost dressed in all purple items. They definitely feel like they can take a scrap with almost anybody in this lobby as it stands. Chaos taking some far away shots. Can't quite get it to go, but that's a tough angle to hit. We see the power of Frozen Alacrity constantly in today's event. Every team pretty much has it at their disposal, and we see Chaos now in this 1v1 practically as Megaverse is off to the side. Chaos is almost out of armor, and Megaverse still fully HP'd and armored up, holding on to that high ground. Again, we see high ground making such a difference in these 2v2s, Timmy.
Definitely. It's one of those things that not only like in a game in general, in Battle Royale or any kind of game where you're kind of, a kind of a shooter, the high ground position is going to really just allow you to do some peak damage and use that line of sight cover to really stay safe at some points. But even more so in this game where you have talents or you have skills that kind of work better if you're at a higher elevation. Things like Shockwave that connect a little bit better. Things like Flash Freeze or Tundra that work just a little bit better when you're in that higher or lower elevation. I'm sorry. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they use that high ground and Silent Kill able to use it over and over in every single lobby to really just take people out. But as we move on in, we're going to see that Alacrity trail. Like you said, everybody's got it. I think it's partly because Alacrity is just so incredible. As you can see these players healing up as they move across the map quickly, but also Frostlance, like we talked about a little bit earlier when we saw that Feather Faller. Frostlance is going to be one of those tools that you can keep in your pocket, pull it out whenever you need it, and it's really going to be able to help you deal with a lot of situations that the other gauntlets really can't do. So going to be interesting to see these Frost gauntlets come through and really just see a ton of value, especially with Ambi on hand. But down to 19 players as Uncle Pepper will fall to Skippy. Lax Poppy will go ahead and get a couple of double exiles onto, actually that's 3. Frog God, Corey Foss, and Coziest, I think, as SK kind of just moves around the map very nonchalantly. We see some pings and some callouts, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit longer before they kind of get into the meat of this battle.
Yeah, and I did see that the moderators put up a prediction for this last game. It was, will SK win this final game or not? And it's actually almost a 50-50 from the viewers. Half of you guys think that SK will win it, and the other half do not. Very interesting to see. Let's see which side is correct in their prediction as we get SK just moving confidently through the map, as you mentioned. On Tempest, though, so that is a bit of a switch up for the two of them as we see FBI Monkey Man now in a fight with his teammate off to the side. His teammate needs to get closer to him as FBI might fall. This is a disastrous situation for this duo.
Ooh, definitely not what you want as yourself, as a teammate, or from your teammate trying to come and save, trying to play catch up. It's definitely going to put you in a situation where you have to make decisions that might put you in a bad spot, and that's exactly what we see here. As say Orion 13 comes through, try to back his teammate up a little bit, but it looks like that it's going to be a 1v2 situation from the get-go, and he will fall to the hands of Chaos. As FBI Monkey found himself a little bit out of place there and gets punished for it by G3 here. 3 exiles picked up for Chaos already, and this is a Pyro player on Frostborn, but coming through with the 3 exiles already and making it look pretty easy. But 6th round, round 6, and this means that 4 out of the 6 rounds, G3, at least G3 Chaos, is running that scavenging talent. Must find some kind of value in it because they're running it on this final round. Let's see if it comes through. Maybe they'll be able to actually show up and take this lobby, but we'll see what happens as they move through, and GT kind of jumps on top of this hill and wants to make sure that this time they have the high ground. Let's see if it works out for them as we move through here and find ourselves to the top, what, 13 players left?
Yeah, it's just about right now, and we see Galaxy tiered. This is the duo we got our eyes on right now, and while we're looking at them, I want to give them a massive shout out for their performance today. Lil Hustle and Brimer have been playing fantastic in these games. We'll see if they can come away with a win. It would be very exciting to see GT be the ones to knock off SK in Game 6, but we'll see how it all turns out. Lil Hustle does have that legendary Shadow Step, so the cooldown will at least be decently low for that ability. They are on Conduit as well, holding high ground, so their circumstance and position is really good, but we'll see how it all breaks down. Because as we all know, it comes down to mechanics. You can set yourself up for success. You can put yourself in those positions, but you have to hit your shots. You have to move properly. We'll see if it all comes through. Chaos and Megaverse, though, back to them. Chaos has 4 kills already. It's looking like he might tag on some more as well.
G3 really popping off, doing a lot of exiles, a lot of damage, a lot of aggression coming through and making it work on the Frostborn. Like you said earlier, neither of them prolific Frostborn players, but really playing well and making it work. And we did see some players up here on top. I think it was GT trying to secure the high ground, and I think there's always a couple of things that need to run through your head when you're taking that position. But we'll talk about that after this, as Lavelle does get tagged with a big shockwave from up above, but Fireball does answer back, and Pro Gamer 69 will go down. Wonderful and Lavelle both still alive, and that's going to be very good for this squad here, as they will be able to get a little 2v1 situation. Lavelle on the low ground there and manages to zap out some nice lightning bolts, as it looks like Wonderful is hiding and healing. Definitely a good thing to do, as he should be able to come back in, as Lavelle kind of controls this area and keeps an eye on this orb. Should be allowed Wonderful to come back in whenever he's fully healed up, and allow Lavelle to step out and safely reset as well. Goes down the firewall to make sure he's nice and safe as he does go for this exile, but he's got to be careful. That other squad mate's still alive, but will not be able to come back through to save Pro Gamer 69 from the clutches of Lavelle. Back to G3 as we see a Frostlance coming out from Megaverse, pops 1 out, actually 2 out, can't make it happen yet, and now we see a little bit of a retreat. Doesn't go that low, but does not want to fight this fight without full armor and health, so he's going to jump back and drink up that armor. Not going to be as quick without that thirsty talent, and like Clay said, it is weird to see these players not using that thirsty talent. But hey, this is a master of elements, and you got to play on our terms. And so far, these players doing a great job of doing just that. Shockwave from up above as G3 Megaverse has to reposition, and now Chaos going very low here. Plays. What are they going to do?
Nice shot from Megaverse,
Oof.
though, holding this high ground once again, a reoccurring theme in competitive Spellbreak. It's always about that high ground. We see Megaverse now holding this cliffside, trying to hit these shots. Got one to go earlier, but can't get the second to follow up. Chaos, though, is running straight into the action, not afraid of this engagement. Megaverse can't quite get that shot to go either. He might want to think about some potions because he's got no armor to speak of. And as we say that, he starts drinking up right now. With 8 players remaining, this is going to be a crucial set of fights to put the pace into the final fight.
Oh yeah, we still see some aggression coming out from G3. I think right now the aggression has already been on G3's playbook, but in that particular situation, it was really the right move to kind of try to pin those players in that storm and really kind of keep them in the area where you want them so you can kind of take them out. And we see a little bit more of alacrity coming out from Megaverse and Chaos. And I think they're still on the mindset of we want to make sure these players don't get out of the storm. We want to make sure that we guard this perimeter and we make sure that we take advantage of all that damage we were able to buy for each other. But as they push a little bit too far ahead, they actually see the squad coming out from the storm from behind them. Did not expect that at all. A really, really beautiful positioning from Wonderful. Very, very impressed there. They wrapped around to the left when Megaverse and Chaos was really expecting them to come out to the right. Gigantic lightning sorcery connects as pretty much 40 to 60 damage. I think Megaverse got almost tagged by the full sorcery and now goes down very low, but manages to connect with a shockwave and will turn the tables as Lavelle and Wonderful will fall to Megabyte. Wow, Silent Kill is coming through to find these players already in action and get some real nice and easy cleanups as GT Brimer will fall as well, and SK just putting themselves in a perfect position to just come in late and take the dub. GT Lil Hustle, GT Brimer going down, and it looks like the prediction has been answered, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, plays. Wow.
Yeah, SK winning yet another game here. What a dominant set of performances from this duo. They came in with no games to be played, just smacking around some lobbies. Really great from them. I really did like their positioning in that last fight. You saw that they were under almost no pressure, it seemed like, just walking through to that final fight. And that wasn't the first time that's happened. I believe it was game 2 where SK just had total control of the final circle. But I do want to give a quick shout out to Megaverse because he had an absolutely disgusting play onto one of those players in the earlier fight.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing that you love to see about Spellbreak. Whenever you know what you can do, you know what you can get away with, and you get away with it with just a little bit of health left. Megaverse does go down quickly after, but wow, what an incredible turnaround in that engagement. And like you said, this is not the first time that we've seen Silent Kill take such control. I mean, it's pretty much been a theme of the night, all night tonight on qualifiers. They just put themselves in a great position. They use that position to pop off and control the fight. And they did that just then. And there's one thing I kind of wanted to talk about with that mindset. We talked about how, it always comes back to that high ground position. We always talks about that high ground advantage. It seems to be one of the most important, if not the most important element of competitive Spellbreak. But there's 2 things that you kind of have to consider. Yes, I need the high ground. Yes, this is going to be putting me in a great position, but it's also going to be putting me on a pedestal. All the other players knows where that place is. They know where the best high ground position is, and they want to fight for it. But here's the thing that happened tonight. SK knew that. They were well aware that everybody was going to know where they were, and they still took it, and they still controlled it, and that is what you need to be able to do to win these rounds, and that's what they did.
Yeah, it was a fantastic set of games, and we are just waiting for the scores to get finalized. We will pull them up on stream so you guys can see where everybody placed. I think it's safe to say that SK took that first place spot, but it's also important to see who gets 2, 3, 4, and 5. And while we're talking about this, I want to give another shout out to Lavelle and Wonderful. They had a really good set of games, although I don't think they had much of an impact in that final fight of game 6. The entire rest of the event, they've been always contending, always putting up good fights, and that's all we can ask for.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I mean no disrespect by this, but I got to say I'm very surprised and very impressed to Pro Gamer 69 and the Royal Raven squad all together. Like Pro Gamer 69, a little bit of a slow start in the beginning of the qualifiers, but after the first couple rounds, that was a name that we kept seeing show up and making it to the final a little bit of the fights, even if he was by himself. So really looking forward to see what Royal Ravens are able to do as they get more experience, they progress. Hopefully they keep coming through and participating in these events, and hopefully everybody does that's interested in competitive Spellbreak, whether it be performing in it, whether it be talking to the players that do it, that compete. Make sure you guys join up in the Discord, the Element Discord, ! Discord. We'll give you a link there, and that's where you can keep up with all of our future events. We have the finals going on tomorrow for the Duo Cash Cup, which will be so fun. So make sure you guys show up to watch that, and join up in the Discord for sure.
Yeah, all great points right there. You got to be in Element Discord to be getting into these events, and we all know you want to be playing in these. It is so much fun to cast and probably even more fun to play. Can't speak from that, though, because I would get rolled if I entered in any of these events. But still, going back to some of the teams that we saw playing today, I want to give another shout out to Cam Sucks and Death SB, because I don't think we talked about them enough for how well they were playing, especially on the back half of those games. Death SB seemed to get possessed after game 4, just playing fantastic through all the matches. So that is another point of interest to be talking about. G3, we always expect them to play well. They did not start hot, but Megaverse playing so fantastic on the final matches. These are all things we have to discuss, and it's so interesting to see how these teams interact. I saw a comment in chat earlier about the talent selection. These are pro players, sorry, not pro players. These are competitive players who've been running very similar runes for a long time, very similar talent setups, and to be forced off of Fervor, to be forced off of Thirsty, it makes a difference to how these games line up. Really interesting to see how some of the teams adapted and how some of the teams just kind of rejected that entire meta.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point to be made. I think that right now in this particular tournament, the way that these rule sets are set up, it kind of tests the adaptability of these players. Really want to be able to go in. And like you said, some of these players have been using Fervor for over a year. Yeah. Some of these players have been using Dexterity for over a year. Some people have been using Focus Mana. You get used to being able to attack this quickly, to be able to put out this much damage and rely on that much damage, to being able to use this much mana. Personally, I was a Dexterity player for over a year. I used it all the time, just because I didn't want to pay attention to my mana because I'm a Pyromancer. So like when I stopped using Dexterity, it was such an adjustment for me to be able to realize that I don't have as much mana. I can't use the levitation as much. And it's the same thing on the other side too. If you go into these games not used to Dexterity, then you don't know what to expect from your mana and your levitate. So it's really just shows how well that Silent Killers, Galaxy Tier, G3, Steve B, like Pegamatch, all these teams came through. And like you said, playing things that they're not normally used to, but able to adapt to it and really pop off and play well. Impressed.
Yeah, for sure. And it also seemed like not only were they adapting to it, it did seem like a lot of the players, because of ambidextrous and how it shapes the class and how it kind of lets you play multiple classes at once, it did seem like a lot of players were almost just forcing their usual game styles onto the different classes. And that's not a bad thing. They're doing what they're comfortable with. They're playing how they know. We saw in the game where Gigabyte and Darkbreakers were on Toxicologists, Gigabyte was playing almost like a conduit anyway, and it worked out fantastic for him. So it's very interesting to see how every different team approaches the matches, and we should have the scores ready to go. I believe we can pull those up and show you what the final results were. Timmy, why don't you tell us what we're seeing here?
Oh, wow. Look at this. You wait a second. I'm impressed though. We got a lot of points gained from the second half. We're gonna go through, and like we said, it's no surprise, Silent Kill coming through and really performing just beautifully during the entire qualifier at that number 1 spot at the tippity top with 1,911 points. Steve B Sucks SB though. That was one of my predictions there. Just incredible, able to play very, very intelligently throughout the entire qualifier and show up some really, really good game sense and some positioning ability. Coming in with second place at 1,471. We got G3-1 going to be coming in through that third place at 1,410. Pegamancers, and that's going to be our team with Lavelle and Wonderful in that fourth place position at 1,267 points. Galaxy Tiered, that's GT, coming in at fifth place at 1,005. CGN at sixth at 877. Seventh place goes to Royal Ravens at 755, and the Bozos at 532 in the eighth place. And rounding it in at the bottom, Royal Militia showing up in ninth place at 491 points. And a really, really good showing from all the players to do today coming through. And, playing on our game rules, our rule set, and really performing well still. I love to see it plays. This is what it's all about. I love this community, and I love Element for being able to allow us to see Spellbreak played in a little bit of a different way.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And it's very interesting looking at the score sheet right now to me when you compare it to the score sheet coming out of halftime. Almost everything changed on the board except for Silent Kill in first place. They managed to hold on to their position, take that first place finish, but Steve B sucks. G3 were both middle table after halftime, and they managed to just completely turn around their fortunes, playing extremely well on the part of Death SB for Steve B sucks and Megaverse for G3. Not to say that their other teammates didn't do as well, but those two especially popped off on the second half. It's very interesting to see this scorecard sitting in front of us. I want to give another shout out to CGN because I don't think we've talked about them too much today, but Slammerox and Copyright sneakily worked their way into that top 7 finish.
Yeah. I kept seeing those names pop up on the kill feed. They were putting up the kills. They were getting the damage points. They didn't really make it to the final circle too many times, but they were coming through and playing solid games of Spellbreak. And you see that kind of represented here in this scoreboard. And I got to say a really big shout out to all the players that came through in the second half and really stepped it up a notch. I told you I felt something in the air. I felt the energy, the aggression. We saw these players come through and working way better with the synchronicity of the duo, just communicating. And I hate to say, it might have been a different qualifier if this would have been the case from the first half as well. I think Silent Kill showed up already there, already, turned up to 11. They're cranked in, they're dialed in, they're ready to play Spellbreak, and they had their game handled and their communication all down. It felt like some of the other teams take a little while to kind of get into that mood and kind of, get into the swing of things. It might have to do with some of the class choices or the class forced classes that they were forced to use in the first half. I think Silent Kill was using Toxicologist and Stone Shaper early on, if I'm not mistaken. And those are going to be some really good classes to get those early on engagements. So you're really able to, get some exiles, get some loot off of those early wins, and then kind of snowball to victory. And that might have been what helped them out take the first half. I don't know.
No, it's a great point. It's hard to tell exactly what was going on in some of these matches, like the exact breakdown of where it went wrong for some of the teams or where it went well for some of the teams. It does come down to those moments, those quick seconds of decision making where you get third partied. What do you do? That's what makes the difference here. And I do think SK handled those situations expertly. We did see other examples of it from the other teams making choices to switch rotations. We saw Arnando B with some beautiful teamwork as well in game 4 or 5, I believe it was. So it's very interesting to see that come through. But Timmy, I could talk with you all day about competitive Spellbreak, but the event is over, my friend. What a successful qualifier it was. Congratulations to SK for winning. And we have some important stuff coming this weekend. Tomorrow is the duo finals casted by Man of Class and OSK Gaming. Make sure you're there for that. And I also want to give a shout out to our graphics team, Jellied, Jovan, Nikolai, for all the work they do behind the scenes. We got production with Strofo, Docta, and all the others as well. So it's a group effort here. We really hope you guys can make it out for tomorrow's duo finals. We appreciate your viewership and your enjoyment of today's event. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Timmy, before we send it off?
Thanks. It's been an honor, as always, casting to the legendary. Beside the legendary, play safe. Such an incredible guy. Shout out to all the production people, all the graphics people. Element is where you need to be if you want to be seeing Spellbreak at the best of its best. So make sure you join up in the Discord, and we'll see you guys in the next one.